In my past life, Qin Yinchuan and I faced peril together, plunging to the bottom of a cliff. Stranded alone together for a night, we became bound for life. By marrying me, he severed his past ties with his true love, Princess Jing'an. He could only watch helplessly as she was sent far away in a political marriage. He hated me for 10 years, coldly neglecting me for 10 years. After rebirth, he immediately abandoned me to rush toward his true love. I, too, resolutely turned my back on him. After 10 wasted years, this was long overdue. Amidst the flash of blades, the moment Qin Yinchuan left me behind to go to Shao Jing'an, I knew he had reborn as well. In my past life, Qin Yinchuan stood outside the screen, his tone icy as he informed me he would take Princess Jing'an, freshly divorced from the Western Rong, and return to court as his secondary wife. Though I lay bedridden, he showed no concern, offered no comfort, and refused to even step into my inner chambers. This blatant neglect I endured for 10 years. This ill-fated bond began precisely on this day. On this day in my past life, the emperor, as in years before, led imperial relatives, former ministers, and their families to Weichang County, 50 li outside the capital, for the spring hunt. Unexpectedly, this royal retreat harbored a traitor. Key figures had rebelled, transforming the county into a gathering place for remnants of the previous dynasty. Rebels stirred, plotting assassination. During the hunt, the younger generation from each household entered the hunting grounds to pursue game, while the emperor's entourage was surrounded by the rebels. To prevent the hunters from returning to aid their comrades, the rebels split into groups. One faction ventured deep into the forest to ambush and eliminate the emperor's party. In my past life, I was traveling with Shao Jing'an and Qin Yinchuan when we were hunted down. As the princess's companion and tutor, her personal guards focused solely on shielding her escape, leaving me behind. It was Qin Yinchuan who pulled me up, and we fled separately from the princess. Later, Qin Yinchuan's guards were all killed. He and I found ourselves at a dead end, a cliff with a raging river below. To survive, we both leaped off the cliff into the water. In my past life, I couldn't swim and nearly drowned. Only Qin Yinchuan's strength pulled me ashore, saving my life. But in doing so, he struck a massive underwater boulder, suffering severe injuries. After reaching land, his back was soaked in blood, and he collapsed unconscious. I had no choice but to carry the wounded Qin Yinchuan, seeking shelter in a mountain cave. That night, Qin Yinchuan suffered severe blood loss and raged with fever. After tending to him until midnight, exhaustion overtook me, and I drifted into unconsciousness. At dawn, the emperor's envoys found us, catching us both in disarray. When word spread, the emperor issued an imperial decree granting us a forced marriage to silence the gossip. I was overjoyed, yet failed to notice the dimmed look in Qin Yinchuan's eyes when he received the imperial decree, his gaze lingering on Princess Jing'an. Now, reliving this moment, he leaves me behind. Naturally, Qin's personal guards pursue him. Both sides clash fiercely in one spot. Amidst the chaos, I grab a knife from the ground and dash deep into the woods. According to my memories, these rebels were operating in separate groups. Once the rebels near the emperor were subdued, they wouldn't have much time left. 2 figures pursued me from behind. I was no match for them, so I mustered all my strength to flee through the woods. The dense bamboo grove blocked the sky, making it hard to see clearly. The pursuers closed in fast, and I ran for my life. To die here so soon after rebirth would be the ultimate farce. Amidst my flight, the clatter of combat reached my ears. I changed direction, sprinting toward the sound. In the clearing bordering the woods, a man in full riding gear stood surrounded by 4 personal guards. Well protected. Ahead, More guards were locked in combat with rebels, clearly gaining the upper hand. It was the crown prince. These rebels were no threat, with his guards protecting him. They couldn't harm the crown prince in the slightest. Yet in my previous life, the crown prince had died in this very rebellion. From my vantage point, I clearly saw the guard behind the man draw his dagger, pointing it straight at the crown prince in front. My heart raced with horror. Without hesitation, I thrust the blade forward. Hearing the commotion, the crown prince turned to see the dagger pointed at him by his own guard, and the blade piercing the guard's body behind him. In my previous life, many perished during the hunting ground rebellion. The most significant loss was the crown prince. After his death, the entire nation mourned. The emperor never designated another crown prince thereafter. For the next decade, the four sons vied for the throne, and court strife never ceased. Your Highness. Disturbances arose as the guards on that side subdued the rebels and converged toward us. I drew my blade, blood spilling across the floor. The traitor's dagger clattered to the ground with a sharp clink. Lifting my gaze to meet his eyes, I knelt calmly to explain, Your Highness. This servant was pursued here. I witnessed this man attempting to stab his master in the back, plotting to assassinate Your Highness. The dagger in his hand was proof. The crown prince narrowed his eyes. You are. This humble servant is he, daughter of Minister Jiang. The two who had pursued me caught up, their hurried footsteps faltering upon seeing the crowd gathered here. But under the crown prince's watchful eye, how could rebels escape unscathed? Seize them alive. At the crown prince's command, moments later, one was slain. The other had his tendons severed and jaw dislocated. As the commotion subsided, before I could breathe easy, I heard the crown prince call my name. Dressed in brocade robes, his jade-like countenance held an unfathomable depth. Miss Jiang. Thus, you are my savior. It was merely my duty as a subject and a citizen. I dare not speak of gratitude. I bowed my head. Rather, it is I who should thank Your Highness for your mercy. Without it, I would have perished by their blades, becoming a wandering spirit. The crown prince chuckled softly, raising a hand to gently steady my arm. Rise. Back in the tent, exhaustion from narrowly escaping death washed over me, and I collapsed into sleep. When I awoke, it was already the next day. As the maid helped me wash, she whispered gossip. Miss Princess and young Master Qin vanished yesterday. They were found this morning, alone together at the cliff's edge all night. My expression remained neutral as I washed my hands, refrained from speculating about the princess's affairs. This is the imperial hunting ground. If anyone overhears you, you'll face consequences. The maid shut her mouth, looking displeased. After returning to camp yesterday, the emperor inquired about the whereabouts of the princess, my companion in studies. I only replied that we had been separated during the pursuit. The emperor flew into a terrible rage. Father repeatedly pleaded for forgiveness. Only when the crown prince intervened, recounting how I'd been hunted by two rebels and nearly lost my life, did the emperor relent. After dressing and grooming, I stepped out of the tent to find the young women gathered in the hunting grounds, discussing Xiao Jing'an and Qin Yanchuan. Overnight, the story had spread like wildfire. It made sense. After facing life and death peril yesterday, today called for some scandalous gossip to ease the tension. In my past life, Qin Yanchuan and I lived through such trials. This lifetime, it was him and Xiao Jing'an. Qin Yanchuan, Reborn himself, surely knew what would happen if he plunged off the cliff with Xiao Jing'an. Yet he chose this path anyway, nothing less than an urgent attempt to bind himself to the princess. Was it to ease the torment of unrequited love from his past life? Or to save his beloved from the fate of a political marriage? Perhaps both. Yet such methods invariably brought more censure upon the woman than the man, especially since the princess already had another in her heart. As these thoughts swirled, the girls nearby began discussing yesterday's events. Someone didn't go to the hunting grounds yesterday, they said, and stayed with His Majesty instead. They witnessed a truly breathtaking scene and are recounting it vividly. When rebels surrounded the palace yesterday, many believed death was imminent. Several ministers even began writing their last wills. Fortunately, reinforcements arrived in time. The Crown Prince of Yen charged ahead, single-handedly slaying the rebel leader. With only 100 elite troops, he quelled the uprising. The Black Shadow Guards truly lived up to their reputation. The Crown Prince of Yen truly lived up to his lineage as the son of a military family. No wonder she had fallen for him. But now, with this incident, it was unlikely to happen. Princess Jingin's infatuation with the Crown Prince of Yen was hardly a secret among the noble ladies. The whispers around me abruptly ceased, the young ladies suddenly falling silent as if struck by fear. I looked up and saw the matron attending the princess approaching me. "Miss Jiang, the princess requests your presence." The young lady who had been gossiping nearby paled, whispering to her companion, "When did she even sit down here?" I was the princess's companion reader. They had been secretly discussing her. And naturally, they panicked when I overheard. I had been chosen as the princess's companion reader from a young age. I entered the palace at 12 and had seen little of my family since. Living in the palace. Though called a companion reader, I was essentially the princess's attendant. In my previous life, Qin Yanquan admired the princess, but her heart belonged to the Crown Prince of Yen. Qin Yanquan served as the third prince's companion reader. And since the third prince was the princess's full brother, Qin Yanquan used this connection to frequently approach her. The princess found Qin Yanquan unbearably annoying. Whenever she was alone with him, she would drag me along. This time at the hunting grounds, it was no different. Unexpectedly, a rebellion erupted, and through a twist of fate, Qin Yanquan and I were paired together. Though the princess disliked Qin Yanquan, she found it deeply unsettling that her attendant was now coupled with the man who had long admired her. Eventually, she distanced herself from both Qin Yanquan and me. In my past life, I was a simpleton, blind to the tangled web of love and hatred between these two. After this incident, the emperor arranged our marriage, and I accepted it without hesitation. After the wedding, Qin Yanquan treated me with distant indifference. I didn't think much of it, enduring his cold shoulder day after day. It wasn't until news of the princess's marriage alliance arrived that Qin Yanquan drowned his sorrows in his study, drinking himself into a stupor. I entered to tend to him and saw him gazing at the princess's portrait. Lost in sorrow, memories flooded back, and I finally understood he had been in love with the princess. For the next 10 years, our marriage was cold and bitter. We were clearly a mismatched couple. Led by the matron, I entered the princess's tent and showed concern. "Is the princess feeling better now?" "Much better." Xiao Jingyan cleared her throat and sat up. It was all thanks to Qin Yanquan risking his life to save me. Her words made my eyes freeze. I suppressed the shock in my gaze, poured a cup of tea, and handed it to her. As long as the princess is safe, that's what matters. The princess is precious. It's only right for a subject to protect her. That's not quite right. Xiao Jingyan accepted the tea, a faint smile touching her lips. At the cliff's edge, Qin Yanquan was covered in wounds trying to save me. When I ran a fever, he still managed to tend to me all night. He's always had feelings for me. I never noticed before, but after this brush with death, I've started to think about it. Xiao Jingyan had also been reborn. Stepping out of the princess's tent, this thought surfaced in my mind. Xiao Jingyan's demeanor now stood in stark contrast to the woman I'd known in my past life. Her eyes, too, held a depth of world-weariness and restraint. Xiao Jingyan inquired again, "I also heard you saved the crown prince." My royal brother? I recounted the events leading up to saving the crown prince, summarizing with one phrase. It was mere coincidence. In my previous life, after the crown prince's death, the 4 imperial princes vied for the throne. The victor was her own biological brother, the 3rd prince. The princess summoned me, likely to test me. With the rebellion in Weichang County quelled, the emperor ordered our immediate return to the capital to prevent further unrest. Within 2 or 3 days, we were back in the capital. A thorough investigation swept through the city, leaving everyone on edge. Once the dust settled, the emperor hosted a banquet to reward those who had distinguished themselves. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince extended an invitation to me. His Highness stated that since you saved his life, you absolutely must attend. Those words dispelled my hesitation. I prepared myself and attended the banquet with peace of mind. At the banquet, when discussing merits, Xiao Hongguang, the Crown Prince of Yen, naturally took the top spot. The emperor appointed him commander of the imperial guards and secured him a position within the Ministry of War. Treasure was bestowed without restraint. The long list read aloud by the Grand Eunuch for nearly an incense stick's duration. Those who guarded the emperor and the Black Shadow Guards received several rounds of rewards. Then came Qin Yinchuan's turn. He had risked his life to protect the princess, and rumors swirled outside. After bestowing gold and silver treasures, the emperor also granted them a royal marriage decree. As the imperial edict was read aloud, Qin Yinchuan and Xiao Jingyan exchanged a glance, their eyes brimming with deep affection. Their journey to love had, in a way, skipped a decade of detours. Where is the second young lady of the Jiang family? Called upon, I stepped forward and performed the grand bow. This humble daughter pays her respects to His Majesty. You saved the crown prince's life. You are hereby enfeoffed as a county princess and awarded 100 taels of gold. I accepted the grace. Returning to my seat, the crown prince gave me a smiling nod before turning away, never looking back. Thus, the debt was repaid. Henceforth, I could no longer hold a life-saving favor over him. Still, securing a fiefdom was no small matter, though it lay far from the capital, in Yen Prefecture of the Northern Lands. As I pondered this, Xiao Jingyan suddenly spoke. Father, you know she has been by my side in the palace since she was 12, 5 years now. The mourning period delayed matters for a year, but further delay is unthinkable. Her saving the crown prince is no small matter. Father, why not grant her a marriage? My fingers paused. After all, Qin Yinchuan and I were husband and wife for 10 years in my previous life. The princess clearly has her reservations. The emperor pondered for a moment. How about appointing her as a secondary consort to your imperial brother, the crown prince? At these words, the crown prince's expression darkened. As the heir apparent, he was about to select his consorts. Though the selection process was ongoing, I was not among his considerations. The emperor continued without pause. It just so happens that during the recent hunt, she saved the crown prince. I hastily curtsied, Your Majesty. He dares not claim credit. To receive the county princess's reward is already Shihi's greatest fortune. Xiao Jingyan also smoothed things over. Your daughter dares not meddle in the crown prince's marriage. It was merely seeing so many young talents gathered here today that prompted my words. These remarks drew the emperor's gaze to the group who had rescued him in the hunting grounds. The crown prince of Yen, the crown prince of Huaiyang, and the third son of the Luo family of military commanders were all present, each a peerless young talent. Sensing the emperor's intent, the crown prince of Yen remained impassive. The crown prince of Huaiyang lowered his head in silence. The third son of the Luo family lifted his eyes to meet mine. Wearing a faint, ambiguous smile, Xiao Jingyan asked, He, what do you think? Her tone and expression suggested that today's meritorious heroes were all at her disposal to pick and choose. As the princess's companion reader, Her manner might lead others to believe I had sought her favor. "Thank you for your kindness, princess," I replied with measured humility, "but this humble servant has not returned home for a year. My parents must already be preparing for Shihi. With my parents watching over me, I dare not act on my own accord. I fear I must disappoint the princess's gracious offer. With the princess and Lord Qin's union imminent, it would be inappropriate for this humble servant to remain in the palace. I only wish to leave and reunite with my family. I humbly request the emperor's gracious approval." The emperor waved his hand, "Granted. Thank you, Your Majesty." I breathed a sigh of relief. The current emperor values filial piety above all. He had never been particularly enthusiastic about the arranged marriage. Though the princess meant well, she could not bypass my elders. The banquet finally concluded, and I fled at top speed. I couldn't bear to linger in the palace a moment longer. I approached Xiao Jing'an to take my leave. Shihi's departure so soon did sadden me somewhat. With the princess preparing for her wedding, it would be inappropriate for Shihi to remain in the palace. I bowed in farewell, wishing the princess and Prince Qin a lifetime of happiness. "We shall." Xiao Jing'an fixed his gaze on me. "You too should seize the moment and find a suitable husband." Stepping out of the princess's palace, I touched my arm and felt goosebumps all over. Xiao Jing'an from my past life, who knew what he'd endured in Shirong, had grown increasingly unpredictable. Now she'd set her sights on my marriage. Memories of my past life flooded my mind. Lost in thought, I suddenly felt the carriage jolt and come to a halt. I lifted the curtain and asked the driver, "What's wrong?" He dismounted and fiddled with the wheel for a while before grimacing. "Your Highness, the carriage is broken." "Broken?" I lifted the curtain, scanning left and right. We had left the palace not long ago, and the area we were now in was not a bustling district. The surroundings were open and empty, with no one in sight. The coachman suggested, "Princess, we've only just left the palace, and the carriage can't go on. Why don't we return to the palace first? We can rest for the night. Once the carriage is repaired, it won't be too late to head back." I stepped down and turned to scrutinize the wheel. Truly beyond repair? Indeed. If only it could still move. The driver's words trailed off as the clatter of chains dragging across the ground suddenly pierced the evening mist. A procession of horsemen approached in full force from the direction of the palace. 2 carriages moved slowly among them. Their patterns and decorations did not resemble those of the palace. "Princess, it is the Crown Prince of Yen. We should yield the path." I stood my ground, watching the procession draw closer to the stranded carriage. I stepped forward. The lead rider halted his horse, bringing the entire procession to a stop. County Princess Shihi, the leader, who had also attended the palace banquet, recognized me in the fading evening light. "Deputy General Zhang, the palace carriages are dilapidated. I've been delayed here since leaving the palace. Might you grant me the courtesy of a ride?" Deputy Commander Zhang hesitated briefly. "This requires the Crown Prince's permission. And the Crown Prince most likely won't agree." I gave a slight nod. "Thank you for your trouble." I watched Deputy Commander Zhang dismount and approach the rear carriage, exchanging words with someone inside. Feeling a sharp gaze fixed upon me, I remained composed. Seeing Deputy Commander Zhang walk toward me, he clasped his fists in salute. "The young master says, it's permitted." No sooner had he spoken than the occupant of the carriage emerged. The figure wore a jet-black robe, his brow ridges pronounced, nose high and straight, cheekbones sharp. His pitch-black eyes gleamed like intimidating blades, radiating a chill. "My thanks, Crown Prince Xiao." I bowed slightly. Xiao Hongguang gave a faint nod, stepped aside, and mounted his horse. He had actually offered his own carriage. Deputy General Zhang raised his hand. "Please, County Princess." I turned to the coachman still standing there. take the carriage back to the palace. The prince is escorting me, so I won't trouble you further. But the coachman hesitated for a moment before finally stepping aside. By the time we reached the Jiang family's gate, evening had fallen. Stepping down from the carriage, I stood before the Jiang residence and expressed my gratitude once more. Xiao Hongguang said nothing, merely gave a slight nod before driving his horse away. The carriage train followed behind us, and only then did I notice another carriage trailing us. As it passed me, the curtain inside lifted. The handsome face of Luo Xinzhou, the third young master of the Luo family, appeared, still wearing that same faint, ambiguous smile. What a clever retreat to advance move by the Shihe County princess. I smiled and bowed. Young Master Luo, have a safe journey. Returning to the Jiang residence, my family greeted me with great concern. Grandmother scolded playfully, "Why did you come back tonight? The chief eunuch just announced the imperial decree granting you the title of county princess. He said he'd sent word asking when you'd return so we could prepare a welcome banquet." Mother chimed in beside her, "I've already ordered the servants to prepare food urgently. If you're hungry, have something to tide you over." She placed a tray of pastries before me. I smiled and said I wasn't hungry, then began to explain. The emperor has betrothed the princess to the eldest son of the Qin family. The princess must now prepare for her wedding. It would be inappropriate for me to remain in the palace any longer. Plus, I hadn't seen you all in so long, so I hurried home. Father listened, his perpetually furrowed brow deepening. Leaving the palace so abruptly is rather reckless. Did you seek leave from Her Majesty the Empress and Her Majesty the Dowager Empress? I did, I replied, but both were too occupied to receive me. I had the palace attendants relay my request instead. How can that be? If they were too busy today, there is always tomorrow. Why must you return so urgently? Enough. Grandmother interrupted. The child has only just returned. Do not bring your courtly habits into the family. Father said. He serves as a companion reader in the palace, representing the Jiang family's honor. Every word and deed must be meticulous, lest we risk. Save the crown prince and earn the title of county princess. Isn't that enough honor for the Jiang family? Grandmother retorted bluntly. If you wish to lecture, find your own disciples to do so. My father shook his head and left. Grandmother comforted me, ignore your father. He's been in office too long, now he feels compelled to nitpick everything. I lowered my lashes and smiled softly. In my past life, I rarely saw my family. Whenever I returned home, Father scrutinized my every action. I thought it stemmed from his lifelong caution, never realizing he truly disliked me, and Mother too. The Jiang family had once been renowned for its statesmen, but over 3 generations, talent had dwindled and the estate had fallen into debt. My mother, born into a merchant family, brought substantial wealth into the Jiang household. She managed the household with diligence, funded political connections, and gave her all. Clutching my mother's icy hand, I recalled the grief and bewilderment I felt in my previous life upon learning of her death after my marriage. Within a year, my father had elevated his concubine to the position of formal wife. Even when I fell gravely ill, he plotted to have my newly come-of-age half-sister succeed me as Qin Yanchuan's wife after my death. Only when Xiao Jing'an divorced and returned to the capital, and rumors spread that Qin Yanchuan intended to marry her as his equal wife, did father abandon those schemes. Yet each of these events had long since hardened my heart. Thus, when father summoned me the next day to announce that the suitor he had selected for me was one of his own disciples, I felt no surprise. That disciple was named Wang Lang. Though his family was impoverished, he possessed great talent. Barring unforeseen circumstances, he would surely pass the imperial examinations and secure a place in the bureaucracy. Yet I recalled my past life. He had married the daughter of a 7th-rank official in the capital. Later, to climb the social ladder by marrying the eldest princess. He murdered his wife and framed her family. The in-laws brought the case before the imperial court, causing a citywide scandal. Father handed me the portrait. I took it, but merely set it aside. Now that my daughter has been granted the title of county princess, she is no longer a suitable match for him. Father's face turned cold. When did you develop this habit of looking down on others because of your own status? I looked at him. It's not that your daughter is conceited. It's just that after serving as a companion reader in the palace for 5 years, I've learned to be cautious and careful. I even saved the crown prince and was granted the title of county princess. Don't you think it would be a waste to marry me off to someone of such low standing? Wang Lang possesses great talent and will surely rise to prominence. You've delayed marriage through trivial matters until this age. What noble house could you possibly find now? Marry Wang Lang. And with the Jiang family backing you, he'll never dare to look down on you. In the political arena, alliances between families are the prevailing trend. Unfortunately, the Jiang family rose only after 3 generations of decline. Coming from humble origins, our influence remains unstable. Families with solid foundations, fearing the Jiang family might be a fleeting phenomenon, will not choose to form marital ties with us. The Jiang family can only secretly promote young talents from humble backgrounds to expand our influence. We even plan to offer my marriage as a token of our commitment. I replied slowly. He has yet to pass the imperial examinations. Now that my daughter has been granted the title of county princess, why should she waste her prime years gambling on his uncertain future? As for fourth sister, she too is of marriageable age. I believe she would be a far more suitable match for Wang Lang. Stepping out of the study, memories of my past life surfaced. Fourth sister was the second daughter of consort Zhao, who later became the official principal consort. She was nearing the age of coming of age. 10 years later, father intended to marry her off to Qin Yanchuan as his secondary wife. She was only 6 now. In my past life, fourth sister married the second son of the prefect of Jingzhou. They lived in prosperity and harmony, though Wang Lang passed the imperial examination the following year, becoming a third-place scholar and holding a 6th-rank official post. He faced suppression and exclusion in court. His prospects for advancement were dim. Later, he took a wrong turn, becoming a confidant of the eldest princess. This is the match father has painstakingly selected for me in this lifetime. Though I may not know the character of those chosen later, the future remains nothing but a gamble. My heart feels utterly unbalanced. In the study just now, father did not agree, only offering a cold laugh. Who would have thought you harbored such ambition? Do you aspire to marry a prince or a marquis? With your qualifications, you'd likely end up with a bloody nose. This was his tacit acknowledgement that he wouldn't interfere in my marriage for now. Returning to my room, I sat before the mirror and combed my hair back from my forehead. When the princess selected a companion, noble ladies throughout the capital scrambled to be by her side, desperately vying to display their finest manners. I, however, combed my hair back and adopted a meek, submissive demeanor, a look utterly unfit for the occasion. And so, the princess chose me. Princess Jing'an needed a companion reader, someone to handle her studies, serve as her attendant, and remain quietly obedient. That was perfectly sufficient. Before the selection, I noticed that all the attendants chosen to serve Princess Jing'an fit this description. Moreover, within the palace, there were numerous young nobles and princes. Though men and women were taught separately, the imperial consorts remained wary, fearing any romantic entanglements might arise. Princess Jing'an also had a full brother, the third prince. Her mother, the imperial consort, would certainly have her choose a companion of unassuming disposition. Thus, I consistently maintained this demeanor. At 15, while my grandfather was still alive, I had just reached the age of coming of age, the time for matchmaking. I encountered several suitors within the palace, none of whom were particularly pleased with me. This is why father remarked that, given my aptitude, I might well end up with a bloody nose. 7 days later, the eldest princess was to host a flower viewing banquet, and an invitation was delivered to the Qiao household. Though called a flower viewing banquet, it was truly an opportunity for the crown prince, under the princess's auspices, to thoroughly assess potential consorts. In my previous life, the crown prince had already passed away by this time, plunging the nation into mourning and naturally putting an end to such matters. I dressed up and accompanied my mother to the banquet as scheduled. Upon arrival, I greeted the ladies and young misses connected to the Jiang family one by one, following my mother into the inner chambers. I paid my respects to the noble ladies. In the inner chamber, the eldest princess, Princess Jing'an, and a group of marquises and earls' wives were gathered in conversation. I curtsied to each in turn. This must be the second young lady of the Jiang family, who once served as a companion reader to the princess. I hear she remains unmarried? The lady of Huaiyang Marquis spoke up. My mother replied, She has been in the palace all this time, and then observed a year of mourning for her grandfather. That is why it has been delayed. Then she must be chosen with great care. As the elders conversed, I stood quietly nearby. At some point, Xiao Jing'an had moved beside me, his expression slightly probing. He's attire today is quite novel. In the 5 years you've served this princess, I've never seen you dressed like this before. I gave a slight nod. Mother taught me these ways after returning home. She said this style is more graceful than before. Xiao Jing'an smiled too, though his eyes held a chill. I heard that day, on your way out of the palace, your carriage broke down, and it was the Crown Prince of Yan who escorted you back. How come I didn't know you were so familiar with the Crown Prince of Yan? I feigned surprise, Princess. You're already betrothed to the eldest son of the Qin family. Surely you wouldn't still be. Of course not. Xiao Jing'an flatly denied it. This princess was merely curious. Why would the Crown Prince of Yan agree to help you? The Crown Prince of Yan only appears heartless. In truth, he's quite helpful. As dusk fell, a vulnerable woman sought aid. Even if it had been a stranger, the Crown Prince would have lent a hand. Hearing my response, Xiao Jing'an turned her gaze away with disdain. True enough. Satisfied with my answer, she no longer lingered by my side and exited the inner chamber. Mother had urged me to venture out more often, so I too stepped outside. My earlier words, of course, were merely to placate Xiao Jing'an. The founding Yan king shared the imperial surname yet was not blood-related. He was the adopted son of the founding emperor of Lin Kingdom. A valiant warrior, he guarded the northern borders against the Di tribes throughout his reign. Yet the current crown prince Xiao Hongguang was born with congenital deficiencies, requiring careful nurturing. Given the harsh northern climate, he and his mother had lived in the capital since childhood, spending much time within the palace walls. In my previous life, Xiao Jing'an, newly awakened to romance, developed feelings for Xiao Hongguang. She pursued him relentlessly for years, committing many absurd acts. When I served as her companion reader, she was frequently punished. Her relentless pursuit of Xiao Hongguang yielded no results, driving her to even drug him. She believed that as a princess and the crown prince of Yan, even if scandal erupted, the imperial family would shield them rather than punish them. Thus, she could achieve her desires. Upon learning of this, however, my heart filled with dread. Should the princess commit such an act, everyone around her, her maids, her nurses, even me, would be silenced, whether we knew of it or not. So I watched coldly as the princess happily administered the poison. Then, turning away, I slipped away with Xiao Hongguang while she wasn't looking. Before leaving, Xiao Hongguang fixed me with a deep look and left these words. Jiang Shihe. I owe you a favor. I remember. Later, the princess regained consciousness under the imperial physician's care. I simply claimed Xiao Shizi had knocked me unconscious. The princess seethed with anger until the empress, who had rushed over upon learning of the incident, slapped her across the face. Only then did she calm down. Her birth mother, Consort Shu, pleaded for mercy, sparing her a beating. I breathed a silent sigh of relief. That carriage broke down the moment it left the palace gates, clearly a deliberate scheme to keep me inside. Though I couldn't fathom what Xiao Jing'an had planned, I sought help from Xiao Hongguang, who happened to pass by, to avoid further trouble. He didn't refuse. Emerging from the inner chambers behind Xiao Jing'an, I saw him approaching Qin Yanquan in the courtyard. Their demeanor was intimate. Qin Yanquan smiled tenderly, tucking a strand of Xiao Jing'an's hair behind his ear. Standing beneath the covered bridge, I was suddenly struck by memories of my past life. I searched my mind, yet found no trace of him ever looking at me with such an expression. As if sensing something, Qin Yanquan lifted his gaze and met mine. Pausing for a moment, I gave him a slight nod in acknowledgement before turning to walk toward the women's seating area. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince has arrived. His Royal Highness the Fifth Prince has arrived. The announcement echoed from the entrance, causing all conversing figures in the courtyard to halt and kneel and salute. We pay our respects to His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. We pay our respects to His Royal Highness the Fifth Prince. At the command to rise, the crowd stood. I lifted my head to see the Crown Prince and Fifth Prince leading the way, followed by the Crown Prince of Yan and the Crown Prince of Huayang. As they approached, intending to enter the inner chambers first to see the Grand Princess, I stepped back to make way. The four entered the inner chambers, and I began walking toward the rear garden. The flower viewing banquet hosted by the Grand Princess's residence featured an astonishing variety of blooms. Vibrant hues of purple and red intertwined, creating a particularly striking display. The rear garden was vast. After wandering for a while, my feet grew weary. I intended to return, but as I walked, I found myself back where I started. A soft chuckle sounded overhead. I looked up to meet a face twisted in a mocking smile. "Second Miss Jiang. Have you lost your way?" Luo Xinzhou leaned lazily against a tree trunk in the princess's garden, his voice languid. "If you are lost, you may tell this young master. I might graciously escort you out." "Thank you for your kindness, young Master Luo, but it is not necessary," I replied softly, spotting a maid approaching. I was about to step forward when, "County Princess Jiang, sooner or later, this young master will tear off your mask." My footsteps faltered, but I ignored him, following the maid out of the garden. Luo Xinzhou was the eldest princess's cousin, once serving as the crown prince's companion reader. I held no grudge against him, it was his one-sided dislike of me. When Princess Jing'an selected her companion readers, I broke my usual routine, changed my attire, and was spotted by him. Another time, Princess Jing'an fell into the water while playing. Unable to swim, I couldn't save her. Fearing punishment for failing to watch over the princess, I saw someone approaching to rescue her and jumped in after them, shouting that I was saving the princess, only to nearly drown myself. When I was pulled out, I was barely clinging to life. Afterward, no one held me accountable. Luo Xinzhou witnessed all of this. He concluded that I was cunning beyond my years. And from then on, he never spared me a kind word. After my rebirth, when Xiao Jing'an sought a marriage alliance for me, he assumed I had actively requested it, and later believed my refusal was a strategic retreat. My plea for Xiao Hongguang's assistance only reinforced his conviction that I was calculating and scheming. But he was neither the emperor nor a prince, just an outsider. His distaste held little consequence for me. Not long after returning to the banquet, the eldest princess commenced the feast. Many noble ladies stepped forward to perform and showcase their talents. With the crown prince present today, and his imminent selection of consorts, both principal and secondary, the opportunity was too valuable to miss. Sipping peach wine. I heard my mother whisper in my ear. Earlier, the lady of the Luo household asked me what you thought of the third young master Luo. I nearly choked on my wine, hastily covering my mouth to avoid a scene. Mother lowered her voice further. That third young master Luo is also a first-rate young talent. He distinguished himself in suppressing a rebellion recently. It's just that he's rather flamboyant and difficult to manage at home. They're seeking a quiet, reserved wife to rein him in. Mother, I too prefer quiet. Let's just forget it. I murmured my reply, only to hear a cold snort. Suddenly I remembered that many military officers were present at this banquet, all with ears as sharp as knives. Mother sighed, then let's consider it further. A few days ago, Mother learned Father intended to marry me off to a lowly match. Unable to accept it, she argued fiercely with him. Father simply threw down the gauntlet, leaving Mother to handle the arrangements. He declared outright that if things didn't work out in the future, she'd have no one to blame but herself. Mother was seething inside, determined to keep an eye on me at today's banquet. Though the Luo family held high office, they were a military lineage, worlds apart from the scholarly Jiang clan. Worse, Luo Xianzhou seemed ill-tempered, and as the princess's cousin, if I suffered any injustice, I'd have nowhere to turn. Before I could ponder Luo Xuanzhou's potential reaction, I settled into watching the music and dance. Lost in thought, I heard the princess summon me forward. I approached and curtsied. The princess inquired, "Are you the second daughter of the Jiang family who recently saved the crown prince?" Upon receiving my affirmative answer, she nodded slightly. "Do you possess any talents?" This humble maiden has some knowledge of literature. The princess pondered for a moment. Then compose a poem in the name of this peach blossom. How does that sound? My heart tightened, and I bowed my head in agreement. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, my poem was completed and presented to the princess. She then passed it to the crown prince seated beside her. The crown prince sat upright, his expression cold. The verse is passable, but the calligraphy is quite good. I hastily lowered my head. The princess waved her hand, reward her with a pearl flower. "You may withdraw." Seeing the crown prince's displeased expression, I breathed a sigh of relief. His coldness stemmed from a misunderstanding. Earlier, Xiao Jing'an had requested the emperor to arrange a marriage for me, leading him to believe I sought to become his concubine. Returning to my seat, flower wine was served. Maids distributed it to each guest's table, but a low gasp arose from the ladies' section, followed by the clatter of a wine cup hitting the floor. "You," the young lady, drenched from head to toe, glared at her maid. "My clothes. This county princess's clothes. This servant deserves death. This servant deserves death. Please forgive this servant, Your Highness." The maid who had spilled the wine hastily knelt, wiping the dress. The county princess seemed poised to make a scene, but glancing around, she relented. In a low voice, she ordered, "Hurry and take this princess to change my clothes." "Yes. Yes." As the two exited the banquet, I watched their retreating figures and asked Mother, which county princess was that? Mother replied, "The Jiading county princess. Her father and brothers died defending the northern frontier." The news reached the capital, bringing glory to their entire family. Now, she is the sole survivor. Princess Jiading? Just as the wine-pouring maid approached my side, I stumbled to the side, spilling wine all over my sleeve. "Princess," I whispered. "No need to make a scene. I'll go change." I slipped away quietly. Glancing toward the side gate, I saw the men's banquet area but no sign of that person. My brow furrowed. Go fetch the clothes I requested. They're in the Jiang family carriage by the back gate. Look for the Jiang character on it. The maid replied, Yes, mistress, and went to retrieve the garments. Watching her leave, I frowned and began searching along the corridor. The western wing where guests rested was quite spacious. I circled several times but saw no suspicious figures. Had I imagined it? I halted abruptly, only to hear a sudden shout. Who the hell are you? Get lost! I hurried over to find the newly changed princess of Jiading cornered by a drunken man, her face flushed with panic. Just as I suspected. As I moved to intervene, footsteps approached from behind. Turning, I met a pair of familiar eyes. Xiao Hongguang. He was about to rescue the princess of Jiading. I grabbed his arm and, drawing strength from somewhere, pulled him behind the rockery. Jiang Shiha? Meeting his furrowed brow. I quickly explained, Prince Xiao. This isn't the place for you. I'll handle this. You. The sound of tearing fabric echoed from the other side. Xiao Hongguang's frown deepened. I added, Whatever you hear, don't come out. Remember, you owe me a favor. With that, I turned and rushed out. Taking 2 steps in one stride, I yanked the hairpin from my hair and plunged it fiercely into the man's back. Who do you think you are? I snarled. How dare you assault a county princess personally bestowed by the emperor? Don't you want to live? County princess. Fear not. I'm here to save you. After slapping the man several times, I turned to address the Jiading county princess. You. The lady of Jiading glanced left, then right, then back at me, then at the man, her face turning pale. The drunken man, stung by the slaps, seemed to sober up and turn to flee. His speed was astonishing. In a few quick strides, he vanished from sight. I turned back to the princess of Jiading. She had smoothed her robes but her face was deathly pale. Footsteps echoed before the figure appeared. How could the crown prince do such a thing? The newcomer froze upon seeing the scene. Princess Jiading trembled even more violently. The crown prince? I turned to the newcomer. What does this have to do with the crown prince? Outside, the banquet continued in full swing. Inside the inner chamber, the grand princess sat high on her dais, frowning at the farce unfolding below. What on earth is going on? I stepped forward and curtsied, saying, Your Highness. Today the county princess and I had our robes splashed with wine. We came to change clothes but saw the county princess being accosted by a drunken lecher. I stepped in to help, but this humble servant knows no martial arts and inadvertently let the lecher escape. Jiadin! You explain. I. The lady of Jiadin County gasped twice, then trembled, unable to speak. Luo Xianzhou inquired. How does this concern the crown prince? I heard someone mention him. I too looked astonished. Your Highness. I have no idea. I saw no sign of the crown prince on my way here, nor was he present at the scene. Only later did a crowd gather, insisting it was his doing. When we brought the person forward for questioning, they begged for mercy repeatedly, insisting they had mistaken the identity. The crown prince and Xiao Hongguang sat silently by, neither uttering a word. Then it was a misunderstanding. The princess regent massaged her temples. This matter concerns a woman's virtue and honor. It must not be publicized. No one is to speak of it again. After escorting the princess of Jiading back to her residence, I requested the court physician to prescribe some calming decoction. As the banquet dispersed, Luo Xianzhou brushed past me. For words reached my ears with crystal clarity. Flattery and deceit. This time, I refused to yield. Mr. Luo. I called out to him. Luo Xianzhou halted abruptly. You, an outsider, spend your days nitpicking at me. Is this your way of seeking my attention? You. Luo Xianzhou spun around, glaring at me. Are you even a woman? How can you be so shameless? Is Lord Luo a man? People speak of a gentleman's magnanimity, yet Lord Luo harbors petty grievances. Instead of focusing on matters of state, he finds time to criticize a secluded woman like me. I sneered coldly. If Lord Luo wishes to avoid rumors spreading, I advise you to behave yourself. Watching his pale, ashen face, I rolled my eyes and turned to leave. A few days after the banquet, representatives from Lingling Pavilion arrived bearing jewelry and headpieces. I opened the box to find a set of exquisite phoenix-adorned gold hairpins inside. When did the county princess order jewelry from Lingling Pavilion? Asked the maid. A few days ago. I replied, dismissing her. Opening the box, I found a hidden compartment inside. Within lay a letter, sent by Xiao Hongguang. The next day, wearing a veil cap, I entered the capital's largest theater. Led upstairs. I sat in my seat, flanked by screens on both sides. The left side was empty, but the right. I turned my head and saw the silhouette of a man and his indistinct profile. Miss Jiang. The voice from behind the screen was cold and sharp. I owe you another favor. Applause and cheers began to rise as the performance commenced on the stage below. Favors? Hardly. I sipped my tea. I merely wished to thwart certain people's schemes. Xiao Hongguang inquired from the other end, so who are these certain people? I chuckled softly. Your question is too direct. Young master. Shouldn't we exchange pleasantries first? Is exchanging pleasantries part of the 2 favors I owe you? Xiao Hongguang toyed with his cup. The first calamity, you knew of it beforehand and secretly sent me away. The second, you knew again and warned me not to stick my neck out. Was the mastermind behind both incidents the same person? I stared at the stage below and replied calmly, same route. Same source, no difference. The first was Princess Jing'an's selfish scheme. The second was a trap set by someone behind the scenes to weaken the Crown Prince's faction. Xiao Hongguang pressed further, and why? Young master, if you wished to harm a powerful figure, would you not first eliminate their henchmen and close associates? I recalled something. There was once an easier way to take his life directly. But alas. I intervened and spared him, choosing Rongguang instead. Xiao Hongguang took a long moment before replying, the clam and the snipe fight. And the fisherman gains. Truly a clever scheme. But why have you repeatedly risked so much to aid him? I simply cannot bear to see a tyrant succeed in his schemes, bringing future calamity upon the nation. Or perhaps, I turned away because I wish to board your ship when I leave the capital. My fief lies within the domain of the Prince of Yen. That is indeed possible. Since we're in this together, tell me, what else do you know? I glanced at the paper on the desk before me. Dipping my brush to write 4 characters as I spoke, they've already stirred the snake from its lair. They won't strike the same target twice. The words first martial, then civil appeared on the paper. Setting down my brush, I rose to leave. Come see for yourself. In my past life, the Crown Prince was stabbed by a traitor in the hunting grounds and died from his wounds. The rebellion of the former dynasty's faction was real, but the Crown Prince truly perished in an imperial family feud. After the rebellion was quelled, the mastermind behind it was pinned on the former dynasty's faction. Only after marrying Qin Yanchuan did I learn that the traitor had been planted by the 3rd prince long ago. Qin Yanchuan was the 3rd prince's companion in studies and deeply in love with Princess Jing'an, making him a staunch supporter of the 3rd prince. By his side, I glimpsed how long the 3rd prince had coveted the position of crown prince. Not only did he orchestrate the crown prince's death, but he also purged every last member of the former crown prince's faction. Among the younger generation, 3 remained steadfastly loyal to the crown prince. Xiao Hongguang, heir to the Prince of Yen, Luo Xianzhou of the Luo family, and Meng Huaning, heir to the Marquis of Huayang. Though the crown prince perished in my previous life, These three distinguished themselves in suppressing the rebellion at the hunting grounds. Their prominence was unmatched, and they were courted by the third prince. Yet none succeeded. Thus, each was expelled from the court through the third prince's underhanded tactics. First, Xiao Hongguang, crown prince of Yan, intervened when Lady Jiating was assaulted. Yet the blame was turned against him. Lady Jiating falsely accused him of being the assailant, utterly destroying his reputation. Emperor punished Xiao Hongguang, forcing him to betroth himself to Lady Jiating. Before the wedding, however, Lady Jiating was abducted and tortured to death. This was the work of Princess Jing'an, who was madly in love with Xiao Hongguang. Yet the blame was pinned on Xiao Hongguang, who had been reluctant to accept the marriage. The Lady of Jiating's father and brothers had sacrificed their lives defending the border city for the nation, only to be treated thus. Outrage swept through the court and the realm. The emperor stripped Xiao Hongguang of his office and banished him to the northern barbarian lands. Later, the Prince of Yan's mansion was found harboring letters of treason and collaboration with the enemy. His entire family was exiled. Then there was Luo Xianzhou. The third prince dealt with him more simply. Luo Xianzhou was killed from behind by a subordinate during a bandit suppression campaign, publicly declared to have died at the hands of the bandit leader. Lastly came Meng Huaning, heir to the Marquis of Huayang. Though talented and ambitious to make his mark in officialdom, he became entangled in an imperial examination cheating scandal. Stripped of his heir status, he was spared his life but spent the rest of his days in a daze, never achieving anything significant again. The third prince was a man of extreme cruelty and cunning. In his previous life, he schemed relentlessly for the throne. After the emperor's death, he bribed the eunuch delivering the imperial decree, learned the emperor intended to pass the throne to the fifth prince, and forged the decree to seize the throne. I went to the study to bring food to Qin Yanchuan and the third prince, who were conversing, and accidentally overheard the secret. When the third prince discovered me, Qin Yanchuan shielded me. Yet seeing the third prince's cold, calculating gaze, I knew my days were numbered. Sure enough, after that day, my health deteriorated day by day. Court physicians and doctors all examined me, yet none could find anything wrong. Later, I fell gravely ill, unable even to rise from my bed. As my illness worsened, Qin Yanchuan informed me that Princess Jing'an had divorced and returned to the capital. He intended to marry her as his secondary wife. My heart sank. Princess Jing'an was of noble birth, the emperor's own sister. How could she possibly be overshadowed by me? Add to that my knowledge of the emperor's secret, my death was inevitable. Yet heaven had eyes. It granted me rebirth. The moment I was reborn, Qin Yanchuan and I parted ways. He went to rescue Xiao Jing'an, freeing her from the fate of a political marriage. I went to save the crown prince, causing trouble for the third prince. In my past life, I was dutiful and obedient, following every rule, pleasing my husband, managing the household, and what was my end? Stepping out of the theater, I looked up to see Xiao Hongguang standing by the second-floor window, watching me. No matter what. This time around, the third prince's faction absolutely cannot rise to power. Days flew by. Summer had barely begun when the wedding date for Princess Jing'an and Qin Yanchuan arrived. Princess Jing'an was marrying out of the palace. As her former princess tutor, I too received an invitation. My father, being the vice minister of rights, naturally had to attend. Inside the carriage, he gave me a cold look. Where are your bold words from that day? You went to the princess's flower viewing banquet but found no suitable match. The high-ranking families you approached later all deemed you too old. You were so full of ideas. Yet now, aside from Wang Lang, who would marry you? The princess is already wed. I think you should settle things with Wang Lang quickly. I leaned against the carriage, eyes closed, resting. Father. Why the rush? I'm a county princess now. If I can't marry, I'll simply go to my fiefdom. It won't encroach on the Jiang family's lands. Or is it? I opened my eyes. Was father rushing to marry me off to form alliances and consolidate power? Father's eyes bulged with fury. Shut it. He was so enraged he didn't speak to me for the rest of the journey. I closed my eyes, content with the peace. The princess's wedding banquet was a grand affair. Even those of slightly lower standing in the capital couldn't gain entry. After observing the intricate rituals, I stood among the crowd and exchanged a slight nod with Xiao Hongguang at the men's table. After the 3 ceremonial rites, the princess was escorted to her chamber, and Qin Yanquan emerged to offer toasts. He approached the 3rd prince's table, but the prince greeted him with a sour expression. My mind raced, piecing together the crux of the matter. Princesses and their consorts from the previous dynasty had brought ruin to the nation. Thus, a decree of this dynasty stipulated that consorts could not hold official positions above the 3rd rank. By marrying the princess, Qin Yanquan voluntarily relinquished his chance to enter the heart of power. The 3rd prince, who had been grooming Qin Yanquan as a trusted confidant, was naturally displeased. I pondered deeply. Could this mean Qin Yanquan and the 3rd prince had grown distant, or even fallen out? Having been reborn, Qin Yanquan surely knew that in his previous life, the 3rd prince had ascended the throne. He also knew that the 3rd prince's schemes against the crown prince's faction had succeeded completely. Yet in this life, his plans kept failing, and Qin Yanquan never warned the 3rd prince. Could it be that he died later than I did in his previous life? And something else happened between him and the 3rd prince? Was he perhaps betrayed after being used? I sipped my wine without betraying any emotion. As the formalities concluded and the banquet reached its midpoint, a maid suddenly approached my side. County princess. Our county princess wishes to see you. Which county princess? The maid bowed and replied, County Princess Jiading. A faint smile touched my lips. Very well. I followed the maid to the lakeside in the rear courtyard. County Princess Jiading stood by the water. Hearing the approach, she turned to face me. County Princess Shiha. She said, I owe you a debt of gratitude for saving me last time. Without your help, I fear I would have met a grim fate. No need for thanks. I stood beside her. When I see injustice, I naturally help. But there's one thing I'm curious about. I looked at her. Lord Jiading's father and brothers guard the border city. I've heard you're a tiger cub from a military family. That lecherous man the other day, even I could drive him away. How could Lord Jiading be powerless against him? Princess Jiading lowered her head, then suddenly let out a soft laugh. You've figured me out. Too bad. A sudden shove from behind knocked me off balance. I twisted sideways, grabbing the princess standing beside me and pulling her into the water with me. Ah! The maid who'd pushed me screamed as she watched Princess Jiading fall. The county princess, equally unaccustomed to water, clung to me desperately. I flung her away and dove headfirst beneath the surface. You can't. You won't. Her voice faded behind me as I swam through the water. In my previous life at this moment, I truly couldn't swim. But in that life, I lived 10 more years. After our marriage, I recalled nearly drowning while rescuing a princess during childhood plays, and remembered surviving an assassination attempt that sent me plummeting into the river at the cliff's base. That resolve drove me to learn swimming. This skill would prove invaluable in this life. Having lived 10 years in the Qin household, I knew the river in the rear courtyard connected to the lotus pond in the front. Guided by memory, I swam toward the lotus pond in the front courtyard. After I exposed Li Jiading's scheme last time, he must be seething. His visit now surely harbors no good intentions, compounded by this being Xiao Jingan's wedding banquet. The two likely conspired to ruin my reputation at the feast. when I saw only river water in the back courtyard and Li Jiating with her servant. I vaguely guessed their scheme. Thus, before entering the back courtyard gate, I dispatched a maid to wait by the lotus pond in the front courtyard. With all the guests gathered in the inner courtyard, I emerged from the lotus pond and met up with the maid waiting by its edge. She had retrieved a cloak and change of clothes from the carriage earlier and hurriedly draped them over me. Her face filled with concern. "Your Highness. What on earth? What new scheme is second Miss Jiang plotting?" A stone bridge spanned the lotus pond in the front courtyard. Xiao Honguang, Meng Huaning, and Luo Xianzhou stood upon it, having witnessed everything. I glanced at the maid, who shook her head. This servant knows not why the three young masters are here. As our eyes met, the three had already descended from the bridge. Xiao Honguang looked at me and asked, "What happened?" "I accidentally fell into the water," I replied. "I'm afraid I'll need you gentlemen to serve as witnesses shortly." At Princess Jingyin's wedding banquet with Qin Deguzi, County Lady Jiating fell into the water in the rear courtyard. Before the eyes of all present, she was rescued by the second young master of the Fong family. The second young master of the Fong family is the nephew of the current imperial consort Xu and the cousin of Princess Jingyin. His reputation is far from commendable, a bully who oppresses men and women alike, flaunting his debauchery in public. His previous wife had barely passed away when he frequented brothels. Consequently, he was impeached by the censorate and suspended from his post. After being rescued by the second young master of the Fong family, the Princess of Jiating wept incessantly, insisting she had been pushed into the water and framed by the Princess of Shihe. Such an incident occurring at the princess's wedding banquet could not disturb the newlyweds or the guests. The old lady of the Qin family, the esteemed old princess consort of the capital, and the marquis's wife gathered in a separate room to seek justice for the Princess of Jiating. I changed into fresh garments and stood in the main hall. County Princess Jiating wept uncontrollably nearby, declaring she would smash her head against the wall to die. The old princess consort frowned at me. "County Princess Shihe, County Princess Jiating claims you pushed her into the river. Is this true?" "Me? Push Princess Jiating into the river? What kind of accusation is this? I have no grudge against her, nor have we ever crossed paths. Why would I push her into the river? Besides," I paused. "At the princess's flower viewing banquet last time, when that lecherous man assaulted Princess Jiating, I saved her. Why would I push her into the river?" Those present exchanged glances, finding some logic in her words. "Who knows what schemes you harbor?" Lady Jiating retorted bitterly. "How could outsiders know the intentions of a murderer? But my maidservants clearly witnessed your attempt to drown me." She was determined to drag me down with her at any cost. I asked, "County Princess Jiating, you and your maid are bound as one, naturally your stories align. Beyond your maid, do you have any other witnesses?" The county princess was stumped. She had orchestrated this scheme today, ensuring all servants in the rear courtyard were diverted elsewhere. What witnesses could there possibly be? But I had a witness. I stated, "Today, Lady Jiating invited me to the lakeside in the rear courtyard to thank me for my previous assistance. We did converse. But afterward, I departed immediately. I went to admire the lotus flowers in the front courtyard. Passing through the inner courtyard, many witnessed my presence. While still in the front courtyard, I encountered the Crown Prince of Yan, the Crown Prince of Huaiyang, and the third young master of the Luo family. They can all testify to my whereabouts. Lady Qin, you must understand, I came from the front courtyard just now. Given the distance from the Qin family's rear to front courtyard, it would have been impossible for me to push County Princess Jiating and then walk to the front courtyard afterward. Lady Qin glanced at me, her eyes flashing with sharpness, and sent a maidservant to inquire. Before a stick of incense burned out, the maidservant returned with her report. "Ladies, I have inquired within the inner courtyard. The two young masters and young lady of the Li family, the three young masters of the Wang family, and both Magistrate Chen and Magistrate Hu all witnessed Princess Shiha heading toward the front courtyard. The Crown Prince of Yen, the Crown Prince of Huaiyang, and the third young master of the Luo family also stated they saw Princess Shiha at that time. One lady listened and remarked, "So Lady Jiating must have fallen in after Lady Shiha left. Otherwise, if Lady Shiha was in the front courtyard at that time and Lady Jiating was rescued later, she would have been in the water for a whole incense stick's time." An incense stick's time? Who could survive that? She likely wouldn't have waited for the Fong family's second son to come to her rescue. The noble ladies exchanged sharp remarks, their words turning Lady Jiating's face deathly pale. "But your clothes are soaked." Lady Jiating seized upon this, exclaiming urgently, "You pushed me into the river, and I pulled you down with me. My maid saw it all. How else do you explain these drenched clothes you're wearing?" I replied calmly, "I was simply so engrossed in admiring the pond that I stumbled in." The three young masters in the front courtyard can all attest to this. If you doubt me, feel free to ask them. The attendants went to inquire and returned with affirmative answers. It seems the Princess of Jiating was startled by the fall and misremembered the events. Someone concluded. I smiled faintly, "It matters not. The princess was frightened, I shall not hold it against her." You. The county princess of Jiating was so enraged she gasped for breath. Her eyes rolled back. And she fainted. Chaos erupted once more. Old Lady Qin clutched her head, quickly send her back to the Li residence. The farce concluded, and the verdict naturally followed. Though they sought justice, these ladies and matriarchs were no professional adjudicators. Even though Lady Qin knew of the underwater passage from the back garden lake to the front courtyard, with so many witnesses present, and given it was my first visit to the Qin residence, she reasoned I couldn't possibly have discerned the river's course and swum to the front courtyard so swiftly. Moreover, the illicit intimacy between the Jiating County princess and the Fong family's second young master was already a scandal. With the marriage alliance sealed, why drag another person into the mire? Most crucially, with the testimonies of the Crown Prince and the Marquis's heir. Even if the old Lady Qin sensed something amiss, the weight of those powerful families versus the Jiating County princess, a figurehead with no backing, was self-evident. Thus, the matter was swept under the rug. As the commotion subsided and the crowd dispersed, I approached Xiao Hongguang and his two companions, bowing in greeting. My thanks to Crown Prince Xiao, Crown Prince Meng, and young Master Luo. To mobilize so many wedding guests as witnesses in such short notice, the Crown Prince's faction truly held immense influence. Luo Xianzhou snorted coldly, she dared scheme against Si Zhao. Not taking her life was letting her off easy. He must have learned of the incident at the princess's banquet last time. Xiao Hongguang said, "It's only fair. You helped me last time, which earned you her grudge." Meng Huaning suddenly understood, so this Jiating County princess intended to scheme against the county princess, only to reap what she sowed. How audacious! To dare commit such a despicable act at the princess's wedding banquet. Jiating County princess dared act thus only because she had backing. I asked, "Does your highness recall what I said? To ensure a plan is foolproof, the chosen territory must be entirely within one's grasp." Meaning that County Princess Jiating's scheme against me at the princess's wedding banquet bore the princess's hand. And that the flower viewing banquet at the eldest princess's residence last time could not have happened without her approval. Impossible. Luo Xianzhou frowned, the first to deny it. You may all investigate what is true and what is false. I bowed and turned to leave. Had I not returned 10 years later, I would never have imagined the eldest princess was aligned with the third prince's faction. The current crown prince, born to the late empress, has always been showered with favor. The eldest princess dotes on this nephew even more. Even after the empress dowager gave birth to the fifth prince, this affection remained unchanged. The third prince, however, was born to consort Shu, the emperor's beloved. The eldest princess and consort Shu never saw eye to eye and rarely interacted. No one could have foreseen that in the subsequent succession struggle, the eldest princess would aid the third prince in scheming against the fifth prince born to the Empress Dowager. At the final moment, she even forged the imperial will to secure his ascension. All because the eldest princess and the third prince shared an illicit affair, one that had already been ongoing for several years by this time. Let's see if they can uncover anything. Why? In the bridal chamber draped with crimson silk, Xiao Jing'an hurled lychees and red dates across the floor, her expression wild with madness. Why was she so fortunate? Escaping every time. The messenger timidly spoke, "Princess." With a creak, the door opened. Qin Yanchuan, clad in scarlet, entered and witnessed the scene. "Leave." The servant, as if granted a pardon, hurriedly withdrew and closed the door. "Why?" Xiao Jing'an frowned, turning to Qin Yanchuan and murmured, "Why wasn't it me who shared physical intimacy with Feng Zhe?" "Jing'an, calm down." Qin Yanchuan gripped her shoulders. "Things have come to this. Let's not concern ourselves with others anymore. Can't we just live our own lives?" "No." Xiao Jing'an clutched her chest as tears streamed down her face. "Just thinking about it, in my past life, while I suffered in that barbaric land of Shirong, she married you and became your wife. It makes me so bitter." Qin Yanchuan sighed, pulling her into his embrace. "Her happiness makes me miserable." As if suddenly struck by a thought, Xiao Jing'an sat upright. Had she, too, been reborn? Recalling the events of these past days, Jiang Shihe saving the crown prince, foiling the schemes of the Lady of Jiading, and today, helping her evade danger, had she, too, been reborn? How could that be possible? Xiao Jing'an clutched Qin Yanchuan's hand. She couldn't have been reborn. Could she? "I am of noble blood. You are heaven's favored son. Heaven granted us this second chance because it favored us." What does she amount to? How could she possibly have earned the chance to be reborn? But if she truly was reborn, would she come to vie for you again? What would I do then? Qin Yanchuan pulled Xiao Jing'an into his embrace, gently stroking her hair as he murmured softly, "It won't happen. Heaven granted us rebirth because it was moved by our true love. We will never be parted again. As for Jiang Shihe, I don't know if she's reborn, but she's repeatedly thwarted the third prince's plans. He won't let her off the hook." Xiao Jing'an's eyes lit up at his words. "Yes. She ruined my brother's schemes. He won't spare her. By then, I won't even need to lift a finger. So, princess, there's no need to worry. We're already married. All we need to do is live our lives in peace." Xiao Jing'an slumped limply into his embrace, then smiled as if something occurred to her. "Now that the crown prince remains alive, my ruthless brother will have his hands full." In her previous life, when she returned from Shirong after her divorce, Qin Yanchuan had just lost his wife. After marrying Qin Yanchuan, she enjoyed a period of relative harmony. But later, after her brother ascended the throne, his nature grew increasingly suspicious, and he began to distrust Qin Yanchuan. Qin Yanchuan claimed to know many of the emperor's secrets, and the emperor never fully trusted him. Sure enough, Qin Yanchuan passed away before her. When he died, Xiao Jing'an wept until her tears ran dry. She had been showered with affection in her early years, only to suffer a decade of hardship in Shirong, her spirit worn down to nothing. After finally securing a divorce and returning to the capital, she enjoyed a few years of peace and contentment only for her husband to be killed by her own brother. After Qin Yanchuan's death, he left a letter for her. In it, he confessed his greatest regret, watching her pursue Xiao Hongguang with unrequited devotion. He dared not reveal his own feelings. Later, the incident with Jiang Shihe occurred, severing their connection forever. It was only when the Western Rome envoy arrived at court that she suffered her misfortune. The Western Rome king, newly enthroned and reputed to be formidable, requested a marriage alliance with the Great Lin Kingdom. He could have chosen either a noblewoman or a commoner to serve as the peace bride. But the third prince had ulterior motives. With the crown prince dead, countless brothers now coveted the heir apparent's position, and the future struggle for the throne promised to be a bloody battle. To gain an early advantage and forge an alliance with the Western Rome king, the third prince proactively proposed marrying his own sister, Princess Jing'an, to the Western Rome king. The emperor initially refused to send his own daughter in marriage, but the third prince persuaded him relentlessly until the emperor consented. Thus, Princess Jing'an was sent far away to marry into the Western Rome. At the letter's end, Qi Nianchuan wrote, urging her to leave the perilous capital for her fiefdom. After reading the letter, Xiao Jing'an was overcome with rage, her vitality severely depleted. After leaving the capital for her fiefdom, she lived only 2 more years. Brother, you brought my husband and me to this end. How could I let you win again in this lifetime? The crown prince's selection of a consort has finally been decided. I sat reading in the courtyard when a small green fruit suddenly thudded onto the pages. Looking up, I saw Luo Xinzhou perched in a tree beside the wall, clutching several more fruits in his hand. Is something wrong? The crown prince's consort has been chosen. I feared you might be so distraught you'd hang yourself. So I came to check on you. I was taken aback. What does the crown prince's selection of a consort have to do with me? Luo Xinzhou arched an eyebrow and leapt down from the tree. I glanced around. Thankfully, no one else was nearby. You weren't fond of the crown prince? Me. Where did you hear that? Luo Xinzhou frowned in puzzlement. You risked your life to save the crown prince on the hunting grounds. Didn't the princess ask for your hand in marriage? Too bad the crown prince wasn't interested. Then you still wouldn't give up and went to the princess's flower viewing banquet. If that's not having feelings for the crown prince, what is it? And he lowered his voice. You helped the crown prince deal with the mastermind behind the scenes. Wasn't that because? No. I closed the book and took a deep breath. I have my own reasons. Prince Xiao knows. You'd best stop speculating. Then you're fond of Prince Xiao? I stood to leave, but he blocked my path. Just kidding. I halted, fixing him with a stare. Suddenly, something occurred to me. Did you receive that mission to suppress the bandits? Luo Xinzhou looked startled. How did you know? Never mind how. Just be extra cautious. Guard against scheming villains. Luo Xinzhou raised an eyebrow and nodded. All right. Hearing approaching footsteps, Luo Xinzhou leapt nimbly onto the wall and vanished in a flash. I shook my head and turned to see fourth sister approaching. Second sister. I thought I heard a man's voice. Is that so? I covered my lips with a book and produced a deep, masculine tone. Fourth sister exhaled in relief. That scared me to death. I thought a stranger had broken into the house. Second sister. I heard from the servants that Wang Lang, the one father wants to arrange a marriage for you with, has arrived today. Should you go see him? No. Fourth sister pressed on. I hear this Wang Lang is quite the handsome fellow. Are you truly not going to meet him? If he weren't handsome, he wouldn't have hooked up with the princess consort in his past life. Suddenly remembering something, I told fourth sister, I recall something I need to attend to. I must return to my room. Sigh. Rushing back to my room, I pulled a hairpin from the jewelry box and slammed it hard onto the floor. Pearls scattered. Chains flew out. Quickly scribbling a note, I slipped it into the box's hidden compartment before summoning my maid. The jewelry Ling Ling Pavilion sent last time was subpar. Have them take it for repairs. Yes, ma'am. The eldest princess had lived as a widow for many years, keeping numerous male companions in her previous life. But the one who truly captured her heart was this Wang Lang. In that past life, Wang Lang had spent years frustrated after passing the imperial examinations before finally becoming involved with the princess. Why not have him appear before her sooner? I was just worrying about how to put an end to father's schemes. The letter was sent out, and within half a day, a reply arrived. The brushstrokes on the paper were swift and bold, containing only one character. Good. A few days later, my father stormed in to confront my mother and me. See how you've dragged your feet? Now even Wang Lang won't marry you. Mother gasped in shock. What? Father sneered coldly. Don't think I don't know what you're scheming. You look down on Wang Lang yet still want to ride a donkey while searching for a horse. Now they've pulled the rug out from under you, leaving you with no backup at all. This. I replied calmly. Father. Mother. Please rest assured. I have my fiefdom, I shall not be without a place to go. I am the Vice Minister of Rights. My father roared. My daughter is nearing her late 20s. Yet she remains unmarried. How can I show my face to others and lecture them on propriety? What good is your fiefdom? People will stare at you like you're a freak. A single drop of their spit could drown you. My mother panicked. What about Wang Lang? Why did he suddenly refuse? Father took a deep breath. Regaining his composure, he's been chosen by the princess. What? Mother's face drained of color. This is utterly absurd. She's the princess. Who dares speak against her? Father rubbed his temples. Now we must find another match. Most eligible young men of comparable rank who were friendly with the Jiang family were already spoken for. Noble houses only sought matches of equal standing, unless there was some flaw. They wouldn't consider marrying below their station. If they did marry below, to avoid attracting unscrupulous individuals, the suitor's character still had to be scrutinized. Father pondered for a moment. I've heard you have some acquaintance with the Crown Prince of Yen, the heir to the Marquis of Huayang, and the third young master of the Luo family? The Crown Prince of Yen is far too high-ranking. And the Luo family are military men, utterly incompatible with ours. The Marquis of Huayang's family comes from a scholarly background, they might be worth considering. I smiled faintly. Father. You're still being selective. Didn't you once say I was too ambitious? Father snorted coldly. That Wang Lang. Even after our Jiang family's patronage, he remains unsatisfied. He's gone so far as to bypass us entirely and climb onto the Long Princess's coattails. A lowly man will do anything to climb higher. Wang Lang himself is handsome and exceptionally talented, though his background is humble. Barring any mishaps, he's certain to pass the imperial examinations next year. But now he's taken a crooked path, becoming the princess's confidant. It's shaken Father's resolve to promote those from humble backgrounds. Rest assured, Father. I understand. My elder brother passed away early, making me the eldest of the Jiang generation. Below me are two younger sisters and a younger brother, all born to concubines. Alas, my brother's studies are mediocre, he'll likely achieve little in the examinations. After failing to find a talented commoner for a marriage alliance, Father now pins his hopes on me securing a high-ranking marriage, believing the Jiang family could then gain favor with noble houses. But must it be a marriage alliance? If the third prince's treacherous schemes are thwarted, the crown prince and his three closest advisors should recognize the Jiang family's contribution. During the sweltering summer, I accompanied my mother to the Jiang family's estate outside the city for a 7-day retreat. My maternal Rong family was wealthy, the estate and shops given to my mother as her dowry were quite valuable. And this was one of them. Recently, some Western Rong merchants passed by and stayed overnight. Before leaving, they gifted some seeds, calling them watermelons. The maidservant planted them, and the county princess might wish to taste how they turned out. Mother was resting, so I followed the estate servants to walk through the fields. Watermelon, a fruit that would later sweep the capital in later generations, tasted icy cold and sweetly delicious in summer. I took a bite and nodded. Quite tasty. Plant more to sell in the capital. I own an inn, we can serve them there first to gauge the market. Understood. After touring the fields, the sky suddenly darkened. Lady, it looks like rain. These July and August days are so unpredictable. Then let's return. Bean-sized raindrops soon began pattering onto the ground, then poured down in torrents from the sky. It showed no sign of stopping anytime soon. County lady, would you like to rest for a while? No need. Frowning, I stared at the gloomy sky, inexplicably feeling an ominous foreboding. Thump thump thump. The main gate was pounded urgently, the sound making one's heart race. A servant rushed to report at the door, "Mistress, a group of men have arrived at the gate, each carrying swords. Their leader claims to be Xiao Hanguang, the commander of the imperial guards. And he's brought an injured man. Oh no. Let them in and arrange for them to stay in the east wing." I thought for a moment. Above all, don't alarm Mother. And send Doctor Hu over. As I stepped out of my room, I saw Xiao Hanguang dismounting his horse, watching him walk through the rain to the porch. I handed him a handkerchief before asking, "What's going on?" Xiao Hanguang took the handkerchief, dabbed the rain from his face, and frowned. Xian Zhou was wounded after all. How serious? The bleeding wouldn't stop. And then this sudden downpour. We came upon this estate, never imagined its owner would be you. As you said, during the bandit suppression, a spy infiltrated our ranks. Xian Zhou caught him red-handed. Xiao Hanguang explained the details. During the raid, a young girl in the bandit lair claimed she'd been abducted from the capital. Xian Zhou took pity and brought her along. On the return journey, he was stabbed in a vital spot. Fortunately, they were already outside the city. His men sent a signal, so I led men to find them. I nodded. Rest assured, I have a physician here. In my previous life, my mother succumbed to a chronic illness. This time around, I sought out an excellent physician early on for her recuperation. Even coming to the estate, I had her closely attended at every step. In the east wing, Doctor Hu was staunching Luo Xuanzhou's bleeding. He lay on the bed, his upper body exposed, his face deathly pale. I glanced at him just once. Before I could look away, my view was blocked. Xiao Hanguang placed his hand before my eyes. His tone cool, "What you see not. You see not." I turned away smoothly. "Are you hungry then? I'll have the servants prepare some food." "Very well," Xiao Hanguang replied. The rain fell relentlessly. When the servants brought the prepared food, Doctor Hu wiped the cold sweat from his brow and finished bandaging Luo Xuanzhou's wounds. He nearly lost his life. "Doctor Hu, you've worked hard." Xiao Hanguang gave a subtle signal, and the attendant at his side pulled a gold ingot from his robe. Doctor Hu's eyes lit up as he eagerly accepted it and took a bite. "Since there's no immediate danger to his life," I said, "let young Master Luo rest well. Your Highness, please follow me." In the room prepared for Xiao Hanguang, a meal was already laid out. I didn't know what Your Highness preferred, so I only made some simple home-cooked dishes. "I hope you won't mind." Xiao Hanguang shook his head. "Not at all." "Then please enjoy your meal. I'll take my leave." "Wait." I turned to meet his probing, phoenix-like eyes. Princess Shiha happened to be at the estate along the Shenzhou return route. Doesn't that seem rather coincidental? Not coincidental, I replied calmly. Because I intended to be here as a double safeguard. Plans never keep pace with change, even if I knew their plans in advance. How could I predict they wouldn't alter them at the last moment? Besides, on a bandit suppression mission, all manner of dangers arise. If young Master Luo were to lose his life, would Prince Xiao still trust me? Xiao Hanguang narrowed his eyes. So what you said earlier, it could all change at any moment. No plan in this world is guaranteed to proceed smoothly. Just as your plan, Prince Xiao, likely didn't include leaving the capital without permission. As the commander of the imperial guards, deserting your post would earn you a beating. With that, I bowed and withdrew with a smile. Enjoy your meal, Prince Xiao. Returning to my mother's chamber, I found her already awake. Guests at the estate? I recounted the events in full detail. Her expression grew increasingly grave. Now that young Master Luo has entered our estate, we must care for him well. Should anything befall him, our family will face grave trouble. The Luo family is a lineage of military commanders. Their eldest son perished on the battlefield. The second son survived but was crippled in both legs. And the third son is now their last remaining able-bodied male heir. Mother, please rest assured. Though this carries risks, should young Master Luo remain unharmed, it would also be a favor owed to our family. Mother nodded and sighed, let us hope so. As dusk approached and the rain gradually ceased, Xiao Hongguang and his entourage prepared to depart for the capital. County Princess Shihi, I shall leave the Xianzhou here with you for now. I will send word to the Luo family to come and collect it. I nodded. My mother, who had come out to see us off, asked, Prince Xiao, it's already dark. Why not leave tomorrow? Xiao Hongguang swung onto his horse, glancing back at me. I'm in a hurry to get back and face the punishment. I raised an eyebrow. Take care on your journey. The entire entourage departed in a grand procession. Before leaving, Xiao Hongguang stationed additional guards throughout the estate to guard against any hidden threats from the mastermind behind the plot, ensuring strict vigilance. Barely 2 hours later, Luo Xianzhou developed a fever and was tended to by a young servant. Just as they were preparing to rest for the night, someone knocked on the estate gate. The gatekeeper opened it to find members of the Luo family. Madame Luo had rushed over with her daughter, both looking frantic. Knowing their deep concern, Mother hastily ushered them inside. She showed them Luo Xianzhou, still lying in bed, then treated them warmly and offered comforting words. I heard from the crown prince. Thank goodness. Thank goodness you were nearby. Otherwise, my son, Madame Luo began, tears threatening to spill once more. After finally calming her, rooms were arranged for the Luo family visitors, and the estate gradually returned to quiet. Luo Xuanzhou's condition remained unstable. To prevent the journey from aggravating his wounds, Lady Luo and her daughter stayed at the estate for 3 or 4 more days before finally taking him home. Luo Xianzhou regained consciousness the very next day. After a few days of recuperation, he insisted he was well enough to travel and demanded to board the carriage himself. His father and elder brother, who had come to fetch him, refused, insisting he be carried aboard instead. The proud military commander, accustomed to standing tall, flushed slightly with embarrassment as he was lifted into the carriage. Lady Luo took my mother's hand and smiled. Madam Jiang, please give careful thought to what I mentioned the other day. After the Luo family carriage departed, I asked Mother what she meant. She frowned with concern. Lady Luo favors you marrying third young Master Luo. I was initially tempted, but then I remembered how unpredictable a military officer's life is. This third young master nearly lost his life this time. It's best to decline. I chuckled softly. You're right, Mother. Back in the capital, news spread of Luo Xuanzhou's injuries from bandit suppression and the Crown Prince of Yan's reckless desertion of his post, earning him 10 strokes of the cane from the emperor. The rumors instantly set the court abuzz. Though one suffered injury and the other punishment, neither had truly shaken their foundations. After all his efforts, the third prince found the Crown Prince's faction completely unscathed. Finally enraged, he sidelined the strategist who had advised him throughout his rise to power in his previous life. In the theater, after Xiao Hongguang relayed this news, I remarked, Then we likely won't see the third scheme. The third scheme, framing Meng Huaning for cheating in the imperial examinations. With the third prince no longer heeding that man's counsel, his subsequent schemes would naturally fail to materialize. This man's schemes were exceedingly vicious. If he couldn't be co-opted, it was best to uproot him completely at the earliest opportunity. The Crown Prince's faction swiftly launched a counterattack. First, the imperial family of the third prince's birth mother, Consort Shu, was investigated for corruption and bribery, trading official positions. The emperor ordered a thorough purge, implicating numerous court officials, including many loyal to the third prince. Then, the strategist was killed, his death disguised as an alcohol-induced fatality. The third prince's carefully placed agents within the court were being exposed one by one. Coupled with the loss of his most trusted advisor, he found himself overwhelmed and in dire straits. His troubles meant my opportunity. Amidst the court's turmoil, the Minister of Rights chose to retire gracefully. Returning to his hometown, his position at the Ministry of Rights became vacant. The Crown Prince orchestrated everything, promoting my father. After attending court, my father returned home, donned his new official cap, and hurried to the ancestral hall to burn incense. Mother remarked, "Thank goodness we didn't rush into an arranged marriage. Now your father has risen to a third-rank official, and with my daughter's status as a county princess, he's worthy of any prince or marquis." That night, father hosted a family banquet, a display of filial devotion. After the feast, he summoned me to his study. "Speak," he said. "What is this? I can't tell if your expression is joy or something else. When did you, behind my back, board the Crown Prince's ship?" The current Crown Prince was born to the late Empress. He was designated heir from childhood. The Emperor later took a new Empress, who bore the fifth prince, though the Crown Prince's position now seemed unassailable. Throughout history, how many heirs had met a good end? The Crown Prince promoting him to Minister of Rights was nothing less than announcing to all that the Jiang family had boarded the Crown Prince's ship. The Crown Prince is the heir apparent. What's wrong with boarding his ship? I whispered softly. "Father, fortune is sought in peril. Isn't it those one or two pivotal moments that determine a person's entire fate? In my previous life, right up until my death, father remained only a vice minister of rights. Now you're lecturing me. If father refuses, I'll send word to His Highness the Crown Prince." I feigned retreat to advance my position. Father frowned, then relented. "Very well. Since matters have come to this, so be it. I can only stake the entire Jiang family on this gamble. And your marriage." I replied. "Daughter has just earned considerable merit with the Crown Prince. Is father already eager to share out my achievements?" Father shut his mouth, flung his sleeves, and stormed out. "Do as you please. I won't interfere anymore." After that day, father truly stopped micromanaging my marriage. Instead, he turned his attention to securing a better match for fourth sister, the son of the prefect of the capital. Originally intended for her, was no longer considered after father's promotion. Yet fourth sister remained deeply unhappy. She had met the magistrate's son and felt quite fond of him. Now that father was seeking another match, she refused to accept it. When fourth sister confided in me, I recalled how in my past life, she had married her original suitor and lived a life of profound harmony. "If you wish," I suggested, "you could ask father. He has always cherished you. If you plead with him, he will surely grant your wish. Unlike me, whenever I want something, I have to bargain with father." "Really?" Fourth sister seemed uneasy. "I'm afraid father will scold me for meddling in my own marriage." Second sister, "I truly envy you, since you received the county princess's reward. Even when father and mother arrange a match for you, they must ask your opinion first." I smiled softly. if you truly wish to avoid another match. Go ask father if he'll agree. You must voice your own thoughts, only then will he understand. Fourth sister nodded, all right. Before half a day passed, she came seeking me. Beaming, second sister. Father agreed. I nodded. Fourth sister was blessed with good fortune, destined for a life of ease in both past and present lives. Time flew by swiftly. Over a year had passed since my rebirth. The crown prince's influence grew ever more solid, while the third prince lay low for now. This spring examination saw both Meng Huaning and Wang Ling take the test. Father, as Minister of Rights, served as chief examiner for the capital's spring examinations. 9 days later, the examinations concluded smoothly. Father had been right, Wang Ling possessed great talent, ranking third on the list, while Meng Huaning placed 17th. After the palace examination, Wang Ling became the third-ranked scholar, and Meng Huaning earned the title of Jinshi. The heir to the Marquis of Huayang passing the exams and entering officialdom was undoubtedly a significant boost to the crown prince. Yet, unbeknownst to all, Wang Ling was the most valuable pawn the crown prince had strategically placed within this examination. Earlier, Wang Ling had been promoted and placed by the crown prince's men in the service of the eldest princess. Half a year later, after his success in the exams, he had completely won the eldest princess's trust. She then introduced him to the third prince. Why, Auntie? The crown prince was enraged upon learning this. Previous investigations into the princess's connection with the third prince had yielded no evidence. Now, with this pawn in place, the truth was laid bare. The princess dowager was indeed secretly supporting the third prince. Jiang Shihe, you have known of this all along. Tell me, why would my aunt support my younger brother? She has always cherished me dearly. Why this? I turned to Xiao Hongguang standing beside me. This. Your servant dares not speak. Speak when I command you to. Gritting my teeth, I knelt, Your Highness. The answer lies with the one you least suspect. How dare you? The crown prince slammed his wine cup in fury. Xiao Hongguang stepped forward, shielding me from the splashing liquid. Your Highness, please calm your anger. The crown prince closed his eyes, his chest heaving violently. Finally, he waved his hand, dismissing everyone. Deep within the Green Mountains, a painted pleasure boat glided across the lake, alongside a smaller vessel moored beside it. Together they drifted toward the lake's center, the very boat I had arrived upon. Emerging from the cabin and stepping onto the bow, Xiao Hongguang turned to me. His Highness and the eldest princess share a profound bond. It is why he finds this so difficult to accept. I nodded. Princess Shihe, in your opinion, what move might the third prince make now that he's lying low? A scheme to sow discord, I replied. Your Highness's influence in court grows ever stronger, while the emperor remains vigorous and powerful. Faced with this situation, it's inevitable that the emperor harbors some apprehension toward your Highness. Your Highness should deliberately commit minor transgressions next to maintain the balance, thus preventing those with ulterior motives from exploiting the rift. Very well. Xiao Hongguang glanced at the small boat moored beside the painted barge and said, I'll see you off. A warm touch closed around my waist. With a light push from his feet, Xiao Hongguang carried me onto the small boat. The grip loosened at my waist. Finding my footing, I took a step back. Thank you, Prince Xiao. Once aboard the small boat, Xiao Hongguang showed no hurry to return. His gaze lowered, resting on the jade pendant at my waist. I hear you and Xianzhou are soon to be married? Ever since Luo Xianzhou was taken back from my family estate, his attitude toward me had changed considerably. He even seemed less opposed to Lady Luo's plan for our families to form an alliance. But due to the natural divide between civil and military officials, my mother refused. Not long after, Luo Xianzhou came to me himself, awkwardly asking me to reconsider. He was clearly starting to care about me. I did give it some serious thought. Luo Xianzhou is a man of clear likes and dislikes. Yet he still has a childish nature. He might make a decent friend, but anything beyond that is out of the question. Besides, I still remember all the barbs he hurled at me before. Still, I didn't give him a definitive refusal. I just gave him a vague answer, saying I needed to think it over. Because, according to my memories, the Western Rong envoy is about to arrive at court, seeking to marry a princess of the Qilin kingdom. Both the third prince and Princess Jing'an, that brother-sister pair, regarded me as a thorn in their side. Though they'd been lying low lately, I doubted they'd pass up this chance. Now in the court, Princess Jing'an had already married, and Lady Jiating had recently been betrothed to the second young master of the Fong family. Counting them all, I was left as the most suitable candidate. If they truly set their sights on me, the Jiang and Luo families would already have established contact. They could immediately announce the betrothal to the outside world. Moreover, Luo Xianzhou is a decent person. Setting aside his earlier taunts toward me, he would make a suitable marriage partner. Considering this, I gave an ambiguous reply, perhaps. Perhaps? Xiao Hanwang seemed dissatisfied with this answer, his brow furrowing. If you have no interest in Xianzhou, it would be best to clarify that sooner rather than later. I stared at him in confusion. How does your highness know I have no feelings for young Master Luo? Could it be you're a mind reader? Xiao Hanguang fell silent. Your highness? Nothing. Xiao Hanguang turned his face away. You may leave now. The scenery whizzed past as I turned to watch Xiao Hanguang return to the painted boat. Twilight shattered the water's surface into countless shards of gold leaf. Standing tall at the deck's highest point, his broad shoulders stretched straight, his eyes like ink dots fixed firmly on our small boat. In a flash, something suddenly dawned on me. Wait. I told the boatman. Please row us back. I have something to discuss with the crown prince. A banquet was held in the palace to welcome envoys from the Western Rong kingdom. The newly enthroned king of Shirong, having yet to appoint a queen, had dispatched envoys specifically to the Great Lin kingdom to seek the hand of a Lin princess in marriage. After the banquet hosting the envoys, they remained overnight in the palace. Regarding the matter of who would be sent as a peace bride, a minister inquired about the emperor's opinion. The emperor seemed unconcerned, just bestow a title on any woman and send her over. One minister spoke up, Your Majesty. This old servant believes that while Great Lin and the Western Rong have enjoyed generations of friendship, it would hardly be fitting to casually bestow any woman as their queen now that they have a new king. The emperor pondered for a moment. So you have someone in mind? Another minister replied, Your Majesty. This old servant believes Princess Shiha is most suitable. As a county princess, she already holds noble status. Unmarried, she would be perfectly suited to become the Shirong queen through this marriage alliance. The emperor frowned, waving his hand impatiently. She is unsuitable. Find another candidate. Your Majesty. After much consideration, this old servant still believes. Xiao Hanwang had long petitioned for an imperial decree granting marriage between him and Jiang Shiha. I agreed. Yet the decree has been delayed. Do you wish me to go back on my word? We dare not. Your Majesty. Seeing the emperor's resolve, the ministers began discussing the suitable candidate for the marriage alliance in a cacophony of voices. Jiang Qingshu, the Minister of Rights, pressed down on his heart, which had nearly leapt out of his throat moments before, forcing it back into place. When news of ministers proposing my marriage alliance reached my ears in the court, I thought to myself, I knew it. My initial suspicion was correct, they would never pass up this opportunity. Recalling that day, I had the boatman steer us back. Xiao Hongguang, who had been watching the boat, leaped down and asked if there was anything else. I stated plainly, I require a marriage alliance. I laid out my reasoning in one breath. though I felt no inclination toward Lord Luo. Both he and his family were willing to wed me. At this critical juncture, he was the most suitable candidate. Xiao Hongguang stared at me for a long moment, saying nothing. After speaking at length without response, a pang of regret washed over me. Perhaps seasickness had clouded my mind. He and Luo Xinzhou were brothers raised together. Maybe he saw through my ulterior motives, unwilling to let Luo Xinzhou be deceived by me. How could I have thought he? Pushing aside the wild thoughts swirling in my head, I tried to salvage the situation, but I could try to develop feelings for young Master Luo. Xiao Hongguang spoke, his voice soft. If I were willing, would he still be the most suitable choice? The words I'd carefully crafted halted at my lips. What did you say? If I were willing, Xianzhou would no longer be the most suitable choice. Xiao Hongguang edged closer, his gaze upon me growing intense. You once said you wished to leave the capital someday, to go to your own fiefdom. If you were to marry into the Luo family, they would never permit it. Sorting through the chaos in my mind, I averted my gaze, letting it rest on the lake's surface. Your fief lies within Yen territory. Marrying me would be more convenient. That scorching gaze felt like it was burning me. I asked, then what do you need from me? After a long moment, I heard him say, the county princess needs a marriage. I need a crown prince's consort. Need. The heat that had surged through my body cooled instantly. I shook my head. Forget it. In my past life, Qin Yanchuan and I were husband and wife for 10 years. Yet his heart belonged to another. He never harbored the slightest affection for me. At times, he treated me worse than a stranger. In this life, I'd rather find a husband who loves me dearly, even if I don't love him, than endure a marriage built solely on raw, naked interests. If the crown prince seeks a consort, countless women will flock to him. I lowered my head. My earlier words must have offended him. I'll take my leave. He captured my wrist. Xiao Hongguang seemed to sigh softly. I thought the county princess merely sought a marriage to evade schemes. Those words just now, it seems you truly seek a sincere heart. Then perhaps you should come hear it for yourself. He placed my palm against his left chest. Though separated by fabric, I could feel the intense heat radiating from his heart. His violent heartbeat pounded rhythmically, palpable through my fingertips. I bit my lip, curling my fingers into a tight fist. Choose me. Would that be acceptable? My father, returning from court, interrupted that day's recollection. He hadn't even changed out of his official robes before rushing home to question me. Let me ask you this, when did you and the Crown Prince of Yen begin your affair? The Crown Prince has already petitioned for an imperial decree of betrothal. Yet I, your father, only learn of it now. Do you think this is proper? Father, you know now. I took a leisurely sip of tea. What expression was that on father's face? Shouldn't he be pleased? Otherwise, this political marriage might truly fall upon me. Reflecting now, my earlier considerations were indeed insufficiently thorough. Though publicly it would be presented as an engagement, we would not yet be married. If the emperor were resolutely determined to have me marry for the sake of the nation, an imperial edict would be impossible to resist. At that point, it would depend entirely on the stature of the intended betrothed. Xiao Hongguang, as the crown prince of Yen, had protected the emperor on multiple occasions and held a crucial position. The emperor would not go back on his word regarding a promise made to him in advance. However, those who viewed me as a thorn in their side would see their plans dashed. Especially Princess Jing'an, she would likely be furious. The imperial edict reached the Jiang household. Before long, the princess consort of Yen arrived at our doorstep. Her demeanor warm and gracious, bearing numerous gifts. Xiao Hongguang's mother, the princess consort of Yen, was the late empress's own sister and the crown prince's aunt. Her status was exalted, and she had always lived a secluded life. Seeing her such gracious demeanor, Mother felt reassured. As I looked at the princess consort of Yen, memories of my previous life suddenly flooded back. The Yen prince's mansion had been falsely accused of treason, the Yen prince executed, and his entire family exiled. Back then, I went to deliver medicinal soup to Qin Yanchuan, who was still handling official duties despite his illness. I learned he was on the city walls. When I arrived, he stood with the third prince, both overlooking the scene below, the people of the Yen prince's household, clad in prison robes and shackled, departing the capital. I heard that during the exile journey, the delicate and pampered princess consort of Yen, who had long adhered to a vegetarian diet, perished before reaching the halfway point. The rest of the Yen family were forced into hard labor at their place of exile, dying to the last man. Later, the third prince ascended the throne, and the northern D invaded once more. The third prince emerged as a savior, presenting evidence to clear the Yen prince's name. He appointed Xiao Huanguang as commander to lead the campaign against the northern barbarians. This act cemented Xiao Huanguang's unwavering loyalty to the third prince. After subduing the northern barbarians, the king of the western Rome perished. His brother ascended the throne and reinstated Princess Jing'an as empress. The third prince raised an objection, declaring this an immense insult to Central Plains etiquette and to Princess Dalan. He dispatched Xiao Hanguang to attack the western Rome and bring Princess Jing'an back. If the Xiao Hanguang of the previous life knew that the very person who had restored his name and reinstated him was also the one who had framed him and cast him into the abyss, who knows what thoughts would have crossed his mind? Nor could he know when, in this lifetime, their repeated missteps would lead them to strike against the Prince of Yan's household. He. Come. The princess consort of Yan motioned for me to extend my hand, placing the family jade bracelet upon my wrist. Once the imperial decree is issued, it becomes an ironclad matter. Since Si Zhao personally petitioned for this marriage, he must be thoroughly satisfied with you. I shall give you this bracelet in advance. Thank you, Your Highness. The jade bracelet on my wrist was a deep, translucent green, radiating an air of extraordinary value. I touched it, feeling its smooth, lustrous surface beneath my fingers. Regardless of what happened in my past life, in this one, I would never let the schemers succeed again. The annual polo tournament commenced, bustling with excitement. Mother brought me and fourth sister along, and many greeted us with smiles. After exchanging courtesies, fourth sister and I wandered the grounds. Fourth sister remarked, "Only because times are better now. In the past, who would have given our family a second glance? It's enough to know it in our hearts, why voice it aloud?" Fourth sister nodded. As we strolled, she spotted her betrothed approaching. He invited her to play polo. My fourth sister glanced at me. I said, "Go ahead." Playing polo with one's betrothed in broad daylight hardly counts as crossing a line. The polo grounds were vast, surrounded by dense woods. After walking for a while, I wanted to rest and happened upon Xiao Jing'an. Xiao Jing'an greeted me with a warm smile. "I heard you're to marry Xiao Hongguang. I haven't had a chance to congratulate you yet. I heard it was Xiao Hongguang who petitioned for the imperial match. When did you two become involved? You've been by my side for years, how could I know nothing of this?" I smiled faintly in return. It was fate bestowed by the princess. Really. That day at the Qin residence during the princess's wedding banquet, when the Jiaoding County princess fell into the water and insisted I had pushed her, I sought testimony from Prince Xiao, who had seen me in the front courtyard that day. That's how our connection began. Is that so? Xiao Jing'an tugged at the corner of his mouth, his deep gaze fixed on the horse racing grounds. Back in the palace, you and I often played polo together. With today's grand polo tournament, why not have a match between us? Sounds good. I readily agreed. Qin Yanchuan was on duty today, pairing Xiao Jingyan with the daughter of the Assistant Minister of Works. As I scanned the field, still undecided on my partner, Li Jiating approached me. Are the princess and the county princess playing polo? Might I join you? Xiao Jingyan agreed, certainly. But I've already promised Miss Wang. Why not team up with Shihi? You two have some misunderstandings. Playing a game might just turn swords into plowshares. Li Jiating looked at me. What do you say? County princess? I nodded in agreement. After pairing off, the polo match began. Before long, Li Jiating and my team found ourselves at a disadvantage. Xiao Jingyan and Miss Wang played with perfect coordination. In contrast, my team with Li Jiating was a mess. Either I'd hit the ball to him and he'd miss it, or he'd send it flying off into the sky. By the end of the game, Li Jiating looked utterly apologetic. County Princess Shihi, I'm terribly sorry. It's been so long since I played. My skills have grown rusty. County Princess Jiating's martial arts have declined, and her polo skills are out of practice. She really needs to train more diligently. Regardless of Li Jiating's expression, I took a breather, sitting astride my horse. From afar, I spotted Xiao Hongguang approaching the field. When play resumed, Xiao Jingyan's attacks grew fiercer, the ball constantly shuttling between her and Miss Wang. Seeing this, Li Jiating seemed to snap out of his earlier sluggishness. He seized the ball and swung it forcefully toward my direction. The ball came hurtling straight at me, striking the horse beneath me squarely in the eye. The horse let out a pained whinny and bolted, galloping wildly across the field. Though trained at the club, the horse possessed its own spirit. To it, I was a stranger. With its eye in agony, it simply ignored the rider on its back. I pulled the reins tight, catching Xiao Jingyan's excited expression nearby. So that was her plan. I clamped my legs tight around the horse, lowered my body, yanked the reins, and changed direction, watching Xiao Jingyan's expression shift from triumphant excitement to panic. I shouted, "Princess! Get out of the way!" Xiao Jingyan reacted swiftly. Seeing the horse charging straight at her, she raised her stick and swung it hard at the horse's head. "You beast! Get out of the way!" The very reason beasts are beasts is that they don't understand human speech. Struck on the head, the horse beneath her grew even angrier. It reared up, kicking out violently and striking the horse carrying Princess Jingyan. Princess Jingyan's horse, now out of control, began bucking wildly around the arena. Chaos erupted instantly. The horse trainer whistled from the sidelines, but the pain-stricken horse refused to obey, its frantic gallop showing no signs of stopping. My own horse behaved similarly. I could only press my body low, gripping the reins tightly, yet dared not pull hard for fear of provoking it further. Hoofbeats echoed behind me as Xiao Hongguang entered the arena, riding up alongside me. "Hand," he said in a deep voice. I quickly reached out my hand. A strong pull yanked me forward, swiftly bringing me to his side. "Are you hurt?" I shook my head, leaning back against his chest in relief. On the other side, Xiao Jingyan's horse halted abruptly. He dismounted, his face ashen, yet still managed to curse. "Damn beast!" It was unclear whether he cursed the horse or something else. The horse I had ridden earlier, now riderless, galloped wildly across the field. Those chasing behind couldn't stop it. Suddenly, the horse changed direction, charging straight toward Xiao Jingyan, the very man who'd struck its head with the pole. Ah! Xiao Jingyan was trampled under the horse's hooves. The animal kicked with tremendous force, leaving a trail of blood at the corner of his mouth. "Princess!" Seated on my horse, I pressed down Xiao Hongguang's hand, the one that had just flung a stone at the horse's flank. Truthfully, I was injured. After speaking, I leaned into his embrace and closed my eyes. Xiao Hongguang's body tensed. "Where?" I opened my eyes. narrowing them slightly to meet his gaze, sensing his body relax. Then, the crowd at the polo tournament witnessed the Crown Prince of Yen carrying his fiancée down from the horse. His face filled with anxiety. "Quick! Summon the imperial physician. The county princess is injured." With both a princess and a county princess injured at the polo tournament, the event could no longer proceed. The families could only pack up and return home. Xiao Hanguang escorted me back to the Jiang residence, then summoned the imperial physician. After exchanging words with him, the physician took my pulse while I lay unconscious inside. County Princess Shihi appears to have suffered a head injury, with blood pooling within her skull. The mention of brain damage signaled extreme gravity. My household was thrown into frantic turmoil, and news of my brain injury spread far and wide. Xiao Jing'an fared even worse. She had been trampled by horses, breaking several ribs and rupturing internal organs. Speaking was a struggle. The imperial physician stated that even if she recovered, she would likely remain physically weak and unable to perform strenuous labor. With the princess in such a state, the emperor was naturally furious. Upon inquiring about the polo match, he learned that it all stemmed from Lady Jiating's polo ball striking a horse in the eye, causing the horses on the field to run wild. Yet Li Jiating was the descendant of loyal martyrs. Her father and brothers had both died defending the border fortress for the nation, so the emperor could not impose a severe punishment. Jiang Shihe, the irrefutable crown prince consort of Yen, was also injured and remained unconscious. The emperor pondered long and hard, his anger unrelenting. Ultimately, he punished Li Jiating with a hand slap and ordered her to copy Buddhist scriptures 100 times. Miss Wang, daughter of the Vice Minister of Works, was also sentenced to copy Buddhist scriptures 100 times. After the emperor's decree was issued, Xiao Hanguang stood by the bedside and relayed the news to me. I exhaled in relief, opened my eyes, and sat up. Now that the emperor's decree is settled, when do you plan to wake? Xiao Hanguang asked. I will wake the day after the princess awakens. I looked at him. If you don't wish to come daily to bring me meals, I can wake now. These past days, Xiao Hanguang visited daily, secretly bringing me meals. The Jiang residence was bustling with people and prying eyes. Had I remained unconscious, the kitchen would have continued delivering meals as usual, and the pretense of feigning illness would have been impossible to conceal. It was Xiao Hanguang who suffered most. Rumors spread that he was deeply devoted to his fiancée. Upon learning of her unconscious state, he became distraught, visiting the Jiang residence daily to keep vigil. When someone spotted him carrying a food box, he simply explained that Xiao Hanguang was so worried about his fiancée he couldn't even enjoy his meals. Only by staying by her side could he manage to eat anything. Thinking of the rumors circulating outside, I couldn't help but laugh. Xiao Hanguang opened the food box by the bedside and took out the dishes one by one. Start with some soup. He ladled it out and brought it to my lips. I swallowed a mouthful and said, I'm not truly injured. You're treating me like an actual patient. Still, I was startled. A cold gleam flashed in Xiao Hanguang's eyes. Lately, I've been so preoccupied with monitoring the third prince's movements that I'd almost forgotten about Princess Jing'an. The third prince was running himself ragged. First, his men, who had long overseen the capital's river transport, were impeached for corruption, dealing him a major blow. Then, the Yellow River burst its banks recently, flooding Huizhou. The emperor dispatched him to Huizhou to relieve the disaster and aid the people. With the floodwaters now contained and imperial funds allocated, this presented the third prince with a golden opportunity to distinguish himself, if he applied himself. The emperor intended to elevate the third prince's standing, thereby dampening the crown prince's arrogance. Yet despite the emperor's growing wariness toward the crown prince, the latter had committed several minor missteps lately. Though harmless, they ultimately required the emperor to send someone to clean up the mess. The crown prince would then express his admiration and reliance, painting a picture of filial devotion between father and son. I vividly recall that in my previous life, the emperor passed away 6 years after my marriage to Qin Yanquan. Lost in these thoughts, I heard Xiao Hongguang say as he fed me, "Rest assured, Xiao Jing'an won't survive." The results of the imperial physician's recent examination confirmed it. The medical bureau had also been infiltrated by the crown prince. Suddenly realizing something, I grabbed Xiao Hongguang's wrist. "She can't die yet." Qin Yanquan. Yes. Qin Yanquan. Xiao Jing'an is backed by Qin Yanquan. When the third prince was counterattacked by the crown prince and couldn't defend himself earlier, I already suspected that this reincarnated Qin Yanquan had no intention of aiding the third prince again in this lifetime. Something must have happened after my death that made the reincarnated Qin Yanquan resolve to become a prince consort, a position that would later place him in a crucial court post. If Xiao Jing'an died because of this, the powerful minister Qin Yanquan from my past life would surely rejoin the third prince's faction. With his memories of the past, that would only make things worse. But the next day, Xiao Hongguang arrived at the Jiang residence, bringing something with him. It was a piece of white silk cloth. Yesterday, Qin Yanquan sought an audience, begging me to spare Xiao Jing'an's life. He also mentioned an item he wished me to show you. He said once you saw it, you would understand. I frowned at the white silk cloth, suddenly recalling something. In my previous life, Qin Yanquan and I had fallen from a cliff together. We spent a night together in that cave. That night, he hadn't been completely unconscious. He had regained consciousness for a time. Blood seeped from the wound on his back, and he began to speak his last words. I tore a piece of white silk from my skirt and pressed it firmly against his wound to stem the blood. "I won't let you die, young Master Qin. You saved my life, and I will repay you." He knew I had been reborn. He wanted to trade the debt of saving my life in the past for Xiao Jing'an's life. His devotion remains unchanged. Very well. I sighed, turning to Xiao Hongguang. As for Xiao Jing'an's life holds no weight. Xiao Hongguang stood by the bedside, his icy expression, unseen since their betrothal, resurfacing. "I only wish to ask, what connection do you have with Qin Yanquan? He once saved my life." I thrust the white silk cloth into Xiao Hongguang's hand. Since he now sought repayment for past kindness, this settled our debt. Seeing his expression unchanged, I smiled and coaxed, "I'll have it burned. Don't be jealous." Xiao Hongguang's expression softened slightly as he turned his hand to clasp mine. 3 months passed. Xiao Jing'an and Qin Yanquan, barely recovered from their injuries, returned to their fiefdom. As expected, they wouldn't be back for 3 or 5 years. The third prince had earned merit through disaster relief efforts and received rewards, basking in his success for a time. But later, the embezzlement of relief funds was exposed, and the third prince faced punishment. After Xiao Hongguang and I were married, the newly appointed Jinshi Wangleng denounced the eldest princess for plotting rebellion, sending shockwaves through the court and the realm. A military uprising erupted in the eldest princess's fiefdom, where she was found hoarding armor. Wangleng publicly produced secret orders bearing her imperial seal. The emperor flew into a rage and ordered a search of her residence. Yet all they discovered were forbidden books in her study. It was the autobiography of Princess Zhanghua, the so-called princess of ruin from the previous dynasty, notorious for her treasonous ambitions. Her consort held a pivotal position, using his influence to undermine the state. She herself was no less treacherous, murdering her imperial brother in a bid for the throne. This incident led to the imperial decree forbidding princesses' consorts from holding positions above the 3rd rank. The princess was currently visiting the imperial retreat, though the emperor was furious and ready to order her arrest. The third prince interceded on her behalf. His Majesty calmed his anger. Since the princess was absent from the capital, and Wangleng had once been her retainer, this sudden accusation seemed suspect, likely a frame-up. The emperor pondered this, finding some merit in the argument. Yet Wang Lang then revealed a royal secret that stunned the entire court. To remain in the palace and prepare for rebellion from the princess's residence. The princess had actually murdered her own consort. This was attested to by the princess's long-serving head maid. And physical evidence existed. The long-serving attendant took the stand and, in a few words, laid out in stark detail how the princess had murdered her husband, presenting the original physical evidence. With the facts laid bare, even if the third prince wished to plead for mercy, he could not. The princess was immediately arrested and imprisoned, awaiting the emperor's judgment. Wang Lang also earned himself a fine reputation. He claimed he had deliberately drawn close to the princess to uncover her treasonous plot, thus crowning himself with the mantle of righteousness. His former reputation for sycophancy and opportunism vanished without a trace. When word of this reached my ears, I laughed and laughed. He truly knows how to adorn his own face. It was indeed he who uncovered the princess's treasonous plot. I had previously assumed her support for the third prince stemmed from an illicit affair, never suspecting she sought to exploit the brothers' strife to seize power and rebel herself. Yet Wang Lang's deliberate courtship of the princess was clearly for his own advancement, truly mirroring his actions in my past life. Soon, the princess received her punishment. The emperor decreed she be confined to her fiefdom, barred from ever returning to the capital. The punishment could have been harsher, but the crown prince insisted on pleading for his aunt's mercy. Ultimately, the emperor spared the princess's life, though the crown prince was severely reprimanded and punished for his intercession. Yet the emperor found the crown prince's actions most pleasing. That the crown prince would risk rebuke to plead for his aunt's life, such genuine devotion was itself a form of filial piety. All previous grievances vanished instantly, with the emperor refraining from meddling and the crown prince advancing steadily. Years of maneuvering passed. The faction of the third prince ultimately failed to gain any significant influence. As for the other three who had vied for the throne in the previous life, now that the crown prince had not met the same fate as before, they dared not reveal any ulterior motives. 5 years later, the emperor passed away, and the crown prince ascended the throne without incident. After his coronation, the crown prince proceeded to settle accounts with each of his brothers who had harmed him during his time as heir apparent. The third prince's fate goes without saying. Xiao Hongguang and I journeyed to Yan province. Barring unforeseen circumstances, the northern barbarians would invade southward within these 2 years. At this time in my previous life, nearly all of the Yan prince's household had perished, leaving only Xiao Hongguang. He alone had fought the northern barbarians back, deterring their incursions. This lifetime, no one from within would strike against the Yan prince's family. This battle proceeded remarkably smoothly. If no surprises arose, it would secure 30 years of peace for Yan territory. After the battle, Xiao Hongguang looked utterly exhausted. He returned and held me close, sleeping until the sun set. When I awoke, dusk had fallen. My daughter stood by the bed, gazing at me with a look of hurt, startling me. Xinger wants to sleep with mother, but as soon as father comes back, mother won't sleep with Xinger anymore. Shoo, I covered her mouth. Your father is tired. Don't disturb him. Mother will take you to sleep elsewhere. Xinger nodded like a chick pecking at grain. I hurriedly took her to another room, soothed her to sleep, then returned. No sooner had I lain down than the person beside me rolled over, pinning my neck with an icy voice. Who are you? Staring into Xiao Hongguang's unfamiliar eyes, I cautiously grasped his hand. I am your wife. This is bad. What's happening to this world? Xiao Hongguang seems to have been reborn too. Story side note. Wife. Xiao Hongguang scanned the woman pinned beneath him, his eyes brimming with wariness. He remembered when his blade pierced the emperor's body. An archer's arrow had also struck his own chest. How had he ended up here? And how could he possibly have a wife? Her translucent white neck caught his gaze. Xiao Hongguang looked away. taking in his surroundings. This was clearly the bedroom of the Prince of Yan's mansion in Yan territory. Her soft, boneless hand rested on his shoulder, her hot breath unsettling him. Zi Zhao. What's wrong? Did you sleep wrong? Jiang Shihe asked, clinging to a sliver of hope. Please don't let it be what she feared. How could she explain these 2 lifetimes to Xiao Han? I truly don't know you. Xiao Han pressed down on her, propping himself up to tower over her, his gaze icy. You'd better not be shouting names. This woman actually knew his courtesy name. Who sent you? The emperor? Or the eldest princess? It's over. Jiang Shihe covered her eyes, feigning confusion for the moment. Husband. There is no longer any Princess Chang. 2 years ago, unable to bear her confinement, she died in her fiefdom. What? What year is it now? Jiang Shihe answered truthfully, then added, not long after the crown prince ascended the throne. We returned to Yan territory. You had just repelled the northern D. Have you forgotten all this? Did you hit your head on the battlefield? The crown prince ascended the throne. Xiao Hanguang finally grasped the reality. He had arrived in another world. A world where the crown prince hadn't died. His brother hadn't died. And the third prince and the eldest princess's rebellion had failed. Moreover, Xiao Hanguang fixed his gaze on Jiang Shihe. And he had a wife. He studied her face, finding it vaguely familiar. He seemed to have seen her somewhere before. He suppressed his doubts, nothing to worry about. My mind truly wasn't clear. I remember now. Xiao Hanguang decided to sleep first. He would inquire further tomorrow morning. Most importantly, he couldn't let others discover he was a stranger from another world. Husband. You've slept for a full day and night. You can't sleep any longer. Jiang Shihe grabbed his collar and pulled him down. We haven't. In 2 months. His lips tingled with a faint numbness. This woman was audacious, daring to kiss him. But mere contact wasn't enough. She'd even slipped inside. Xiao Hanguang had never shared such intimate contact with a woman. His heart raced wildly. He wanted to push her away forcefully. But remembering she was his wife, he only gently pulled her down. This ill-fated entanglement began today. Xiao Hanguang lay down with his back to her, sensing her soft hand touch his earlobe. Zi Zhao. Why are your ears so red? Xing'er is already 3 years old. How can you still be so shy? Xiao Hanguang rolled over. Xing'er is. Jiang Shihe blinked. Our daughter. Of course. It felt like thunderclaps in his ears. Xiao Hanguang was utterly stunned. In this world, he had even had a child. Jiang Shihe's fingers traced his cheek as she studied his expression, finding it rather amusing. She'd assumed the rest of her life would unfold quietly and uneventfully. Little did she expect Xiao Hanguang, possessing memories from his past life, to appear. Teasing him would surely be quite entertaining. The end.